Welcome, thrill seekers of the supernatural, to Muskegon, a land of dense forests, wind-swept shores, and lakes so deep that some say they hold more than water. Beneath the placid surfaces and moonlit reflections lie stories of disappearance, tragedy, and lingering spirits. These lakes, while serene by day, conceal mysteries that emerge after dark. Visitors often report strange reflections, faces in the water that vanish when approached, and ghostly figures along the shores. Some hear whispers carried by the wind, the faint splash of unseen swimmers, or the sound of boats moving when no one is there. Locals whisper of people vanishing, of spirits trapped in the rippling depths, and reflections that show more than reality. Tonight, we explore 25 haunted lakes in Michigan with mysterious reflections. From small secluded ponds to vast inland seas, each with tales of ghostly sightings, tragic events, and unexplained phenomena. Some hauntings are documented, others are whispered legends, but all share one chilling truth. In these waters, the past stares back. Keep your courage steady, your flashlight ready, and your senses alert. Because tonight, Michigan's haunted lakes are watching, and the reflections are never what they seem. Lake Michigan, one of the largest and most majestic of the Great Lakes, stretches endlessly along its western shore, where the water meets sandy beaches, rocky cliffs, and dense forests. By day, its sparkling waves and vast horizon draw tourists, swimmers, and sailors, offering a sense of serenity and grandeur. But as night falls, especially during foggy evenings, Lake Michigan's western shore takes on a more mysterious and unsettling character. Locals and visitors alike have reported strange and ghostly phenomena, from phantom ships appearing in the mist to faces emerging on the waves, and the mournful cries of unseen sailors carried across the lake by the wind. For centuries, the western shore of Lake Michigan has been the site of maritime tragedy, shipwrecks, and disappearances, and many believe the spirits of those lost continue to haunt its waters and shores. One of the most commonly reported hauntings involves ghost ships. On fog-laden nights, witnesses describe seeing the faint outline of vessels that seem to glide silently across the water. These apparitions often appear weathered and worn, as though they belong to a bygone era of wooden hulls and sail-driven navigation. The ghostly ships are sometimes accompanied by the flicker of lanterns or glowing lights, which bob eerily in the fog, casting long, wavering reflections across the lake's surface. Mariners and shore watchers alike have claimed that the ships vanish when approached, fading as though swallowed by the mist, leaving only a ripple on the water where the vessel had been. Many believe these are the spirits of ships lost to storms, sudden shoals, or collisions long ago, doomed to wander the lake for eternity. Equally chilling are the phantom faces that are said to appear on the waves themselves. Observers report glimpsing human features forming briefly on the surface of the water, distorted by wind and wave, before disappearing as quickly as they appeared. Some describe pale faces staring upward with hollow eyes, mouths frozen in silent cries. Others report seeing multiple faces pressed together as if trapped beneath the waves, all seeming to plead for recognition or rescue. These fleeting images are often accompanied by the sound of rushing water or muffled voices, as if the lake itself carries the echoes of lives lost in its depths. It is a phenomenon that has left many shaken, prompting some to avoid walking along the shoreline after dark. The cries of lost sailors are another haunting element reported along Lake Michigan's western shore. Wind patterns can carry sound remarkably far across the water, and on foggy nights, faint shouts or moans are often heard, seemingly coming from nowhere. Some claim to hear pleas for help, the sound of hammering, or commands shouted in panic. Occasionally, these auditory experiences are paired with visual sightings of shadowy figures wandering along the shoreline or moving through the shallow waves. The combination of sound and sight creates a compelling sense of presence, leaving witnesses with the impression that the spirits of drowned sailors and shipwreck victims remain tethered to the lake. Local folklore has long contributed to Lake Michigan's haunted reputation. Tales passed down through generations tell of ships that vanished without a trace, sailors lost in sudden storms, and mysterious disappearances along the shoreline. Stories recount fishermen spotting ghostly figures standing on docks or walking the beaches, only to vanish when approached. Lighthouse keepers and maritime workers have reported seeing fleeting lights on the water that do not correspond to any vessel. And some fishermen speak of hearing warnings whispered across the waves. These accounts have blended history with legend, creating a rich tapestry of supernatural lore that continues to captivate those who venture near the lake at night. Environmental factors can sometimes amplify these experiences. Fog rolling in from the lake distorts shapes and light, making distant boats or floating debris appear spectral. The wind over open water can carry sounds in unexpected directions, producing auditory illusions that mimic voices or cries. Reflections from the moon or distant shorelines can create the impression of glowing eyes or faces on the water. Even so, the repeated nature of sightings and the emotional impact on those who experience them suggests that more than natural phenomena may be at work. Many who witness the ghostly ships, faces, or cries describe feelings of intense sadness, foreboding, or the unmistakable sense of being watched. Sensations that persist long after leaving the shoreline. Paranormal enthusiasts often gather along the western shore of Lake Michigan, hoping to document evidence of these hauntings. Equipped with cameras, audio recorders, and night vision equipment, they attempt to capture images of the ghostly vessels, glowing lights, and spectral figures described by locals. While photographs occasionally reveal faint lights or shapes on the water, audio recordings sometimes capture unexplainable sounds resembling cries, shouting, or the creaking of ship timbers. Many who visit, whether skeptics or believers, report an unsettling awareness, a feeling that unseen eyes are observing their every move, particularly in areas near known shipwrecks or during dense fog conditions. The haunting of Lake Michigan's western shore is, at its core, a reflection of the lake's long and sometimes treacherous history. Each shipwreck, each life lost, leaves an echo that persists in the fog, waves, and shadows along the beach. Phantom vessels drift across the waters, shadowy faces rise and vanish from the waves, and distant cries remind visitors of the perils that have claimed countless souls. To walk along the western shore at night is to enter a space where history, loss, and the supernatural converge, where the boundary between the living and the lost is blurred. Torch Lake, in Antrim County, Michigan, stretches for miles with its strikingly clear waters and emerald green depths, earning a reputation as one of the most beautiful lakes in the state. But beneath its serene surface, locals tell stories of strange occurrences and eerie happenings that hint at a haunting history. For generations, residents and visitors have whispered about mysterious reflections on the water, ghostly figures that appear along the shoreline, and faint voices that seem to call to anyone venturing too close after dark. The lake, while dazzling in daylight, transforms into a place of unease when night falls, as if it holds memories of events long past, trapped beneath its surface. One of the most commonly reported phenomena involves the lake's reflective waters. People claim that on calm, moonlit nights, Torch Lake becomes a mirror not just of the sky, but of history itself. Shadows of structures that no longer exist, old boats drifting silently, and people in clothing from decades past are said to appear in the water's reflection. These images are fleeting, vanishing when approached or when the viewer shifts their gaze. Yet, they are often detailed enough to suggest scenes of everyday life from the early 20th century. Locals have described seeing fishermen casting nets from vessels that have long since rotted away, children playing along the shoreline, and gatherings at old docks that vanished with time. Many believe these reflections are residual hauntings, echoes of the past imprinted upon the lake's calm surface, replaying moments trapped in time. Shadowy figures add a more immediate sense of dread for visitors after dark. Witnesses report seeing dark forms moving across the lake, sometimes hovering just above the water or gliding along the shoreline. These shapes are often humanoid but indistinct, their movements deliberate yet unnervingly silent. Some observers describe figures that appear to be calling to them, reaching out as if seeking attention, only to dissolve into the mist or disappear into the water. Occasionally, These apparitions are accompanied by sudden chills or a feeling of being watched, sensations that many say are difficult to shake even after leaving the lake. Campers, fishermen, and nightwalkers alike have recounted moments where the shadowy forms seemed to mirror their movements, moving closer when they approached and retreating when they attempted to get nearer. Auditory phenomena are also commonly reported around Torch Lake. People have described faint whispers carried across the water, just audible above the natural sounds of the lake. Some say the voices call their names or issue vague warnings, while others report hearing the echoes of conversations from decades past. At times, the sounds seem to emerge from the lake itself, as though the water is speaking, while at other moments, they appear to originate from the surrounding woods or docks, combined with the spectral reflections and shadowy figures. These whispers create a sense that the lake is alive, with memories and presences that refuse to fade. Local lore has kept the stories of Torch Lake alive for generations. Residents speak of old mining communities and logging settlements that once thrived along its shores, many of which disappeared due to economic decline or tragic accidents. Legends tell of fishermen swept away by sudden storms, children lost while playing along the banks, and families mourning those who vanished beneath the lake's surface. Over time, these tales merged with the unexplained phenomena observed by modern visitors, creating a layered narrative in which history and the supernatural intertwine. Parents have warned children not to wander the lake at night. Fishermen have hesitated to stay past dusk, and tourists drawn to the water's beauty have occasionally encountered sights and sounds that cannot be explained by nature alone. Environmental factors undoubtedly contribute to some of the lake's eerie qualities. Torch Lake's exceptional clarity can create optical illusions, where submerged logs or rippling water appear as figures or faces. Fog often rolls in from the surrounding hills, distorting light and shadow and creating movements that seem independent of any physical source. Nighttime sounds can carry across the water, transforming mundane noises into something mysterious or menacing. Yet, the consistency and specificity of many reports, from reflective apparitions to whispered calls, suggests that the lake may harbor more than just visual and auditory trickery. Many who experience the phenomena describe a lingering unease, a sense of connection to lives long past, and an inexplicable feeling that the lake remembers. Paranormal enthusiasts and ghost hunters frequently visit Torch Lake to investigate these occurrences. Equipped with cameras, audio recorders, and night vision equipment, they attempt to capture images of shadowy forms, reflections of long-gone scenes, or the faint whispers reported by locals. Occasionally, recordings pick up unexplained noises, voices, footsteps, or splashes that cannot be attributed to the natural environment. Photographs sometimes reveal indistinct shapes in the water or on the shoreline, which vanish when approached. Even those skeptical of the supernatural often describe a chilling awareness while on the lake after dark, a sense of unseen eyes following them along the docks or the water's edge. The haunting of Torch Lake is, in many ways, a reflection of its history. Each lost fisherman, each vanished settlement, each accident or tragedy seems to have left an imprint upon the lake's waters and shoreline. Reflections of bygone eras shimmer on the surface. Shadowy figures wander along the banks, and faint whispers carry across the still water, offering glimpses of lives that remain partially tethered to the physical world. Torch Lake is both a natural wonder and a keeper of memories, a place where beauty and unease coexist, and where those who venture after dark may find themselves encountering the echoes of the past. Houghton Lake in Muskegon County, Michigan, is known for its clear waters, sandy beaches, and dense forests lining the shoreline. By day, it is a place of recreation and relaxation, with swimmers, kayakers, and families enjoying the sun and water. But after dusk, especially during quiet nights, when fog drifts across the surface, the lake takes on a more mysterious and unsettling character. Locals and visitors have long whispered about ghostly silhouettes moving along the shore, reflections of people who aren't physically present, and sudden cold spots that chill the bones. Many also report sightings of phantom rowboats gliding silently across the water, empty but eerily navigable, as if guided by unseen hands. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at Higgins Lake involves these ghostly silhouettes. Witnesses often describe seeing figures walking along the shoreline, sometimes in clothing that hints at decades past, while other times their forms are shadowy and indistinct. These figures appear to move with purpose, pacing or pausing at certain spots as though retracing a memory. Campers and late-night visitors have recounted the unsettling feeling of being watched as they hike or sit near the water, only to glance toward the shore and catch a fleeting shape that disappears when approached. The silhouettes often vanish into the fog or behind trees, leaving no evidence of their presence other than the lingering sense that someone or something was there moments before. Equally chilling are the reflections that appear on the lake's surface. Even when the water is perfectly still, people report seeing images that do not match the surroundings. Sometimes these are reflections of figures standing on the shore who aren't actually present. Other times, entire scenes from long ago seem to play out across the water, as if the lake itself is a mirror into the past. Visitors have reported glimpsing children playing near docks that no longer exist, fishermen casting nets from rowboats long lost to time, and couples strolling along sandbars that have eroded away. The images are fleeting, fading instantly when anyone tries to approach them. Yet their detail and realism suggests more than simple optical illusions. Many locals believe these are residual hauntings, echoes of lives once intimately connected to Higgins Lake, replaying silently for those attuned to notice. Phantom rowboats are another eerie occurrence described by witnesses. These small vessels are said to appear on calm nights, drifting across the lake without anyone at the oars. Some observers report seeing them glide toward the shore as though guided by invisible hands, while others describe them bobbing gently near abandoned docks or sandbars before fading into the mist. Occasionally, the rowboats are accompanied by faint sound splashing water, the creak of oars, or even hushed whispers, but no one can find any occupant. These apparitions create an unnerving sense of presence, a feeling that the lake is alive with memories and spirits that refuse to rest. Cold spots and sudden chills are a common sensory experience reported along Higgins Lake. Many visitors describe walking along the water's edge on warm summer nights only to feel an inexplicable drop in temperature in specific areas. Some report these cold spots moving with them, intensifying as they approach the water or the dock, and then fading when they leave. Often these temperature anomalies coincide with other phenomena such as glimpses of silhouettes, whispers, or the faint appearance of phantom boats, reinforcing the sense that the lake is not simply a natural setting but a place infused with unseen energies. Local folklore contributes heavily to Higgins Lake's haunted reputation. Stories passed down over generations tell of fishermen lost during sudden storms, children who wandered too far from shore, and early settlers who disappeared in the dense woods surrounding the lake. Many of these tales involve mysterious circumstances, unexplained drownings, or tragic accidents, which locals believe have left imprints on the lake itself. Parents warn children not to roam near the water at night. Campers avoid the shoreline after dark, and even experienced fishermen sometimes hesitate to venture too far out when the fog rolls in. Over time, the combination of natural hazards and mysterious sightings has solidified Higgins Lake as a site of both natural beauty and supernatural intrigue. Environmental conditions at Higgins Lake can sometimes amplify these experiences. The clarity of the water, combined with moonlight or fog, can create optical illusions that resemble figures or shapes on the surface. Sound travels unusually well across the water at night, carrying noises that seem to emerge from nowhere. Yet, the consistent nature of reports, ghostly silhouettes, unexplained reflections, sudden chills, and empty rowboats suggests that more than natural phenomena may be at work. Witnesses often describe a lingering unease or a sense of being watched, sensations that persist long after leaving the lake. Paranormal enthusiasts and investigators frequently visit Higgins Lake to document these occurrences. Equipped with cameras, audio recorders, and night vision equipment, they attempt to capture images of the ghostly silhouettes, the phantom rowboats, and the mysterious reflections that have been reported for decades. Sometimes audio devices pick up faint whispers, water sounds, or creaking oars that cannot be attributed to natural sources. Photographs occasionally reveal indistinct shapes or figures along the shoreline or on the water's surface, though the images often vanish when approached. Whether skeptic or believer, many agree that Higgins Lake holds an undeniable atmosphere of quiet unease after dark. Lake Huron, one of the Great Lakes' largest and most striking bodies of water, stretches along Michigan's eastern shore with vast expanses of deep blue and rolling waves. By day, its shoreline is dotted with lighthouses, marinas, and sandy beaches, attracting tourists, sailors, and families seeking the beauty of its waters. Yet, as the sun dips below the horizon and evening fog drifts over the lake, an unsettling transformation is said to take place. These phenomena have long given Lake Huron a haunted reputation, with stories of restless spirits tied to its waters, whispered from generation to generation. One of the most frequently reported experiences involves ghostly ships that appear on the lake, often shrouded in fog. Witnesses describe vessels from bygone eras, sometimes small schooners or merchant ships, appearing far from any modern watercraft. These phantom ships are said to glide across the water without sound, their sails catching winds that no one else can feel. Observers claim that their decks are sometimes populated by figures in period clothing, fishermen, sailors, or captains, who move with purpose, adjusting rigging, calling orders, or even waving toward onlookers on shore. Incredibly, these apparitions vanish as suddenly as they appear, dissolving into the mist or fading with the rising moon, leaving only the cold waters of Lake Huron and the lingering chill of the encounter. Alongside the spectral vessels, witnesses report strange reflections on the lake's surface. On calm nights, the water can act like a mirror, revealing images that have no present-day counterpart. People have claimed to see long-disappeared fishing villages, sunken boats, or scenes of shipwrecks replaying themselves on the water. Some observers have even reported seeing figures standing on docks that no longer exist, waving or gesturing before fading entirely. These reflections are often so vivid that they appear real at first glance, only to dissolve when one attempts to approach, leaving an uneasy sense that the lake itself is alive with memories of the past. Figures in old sailing attire add another layer of mystery. Witnesses frequently describe seeing men and women dressed in garments from the 18th or 19th centuries, appearing along the shoreline or standing on the decks of the ghostly ships. These apparitions often seem to acknowledge observers, waving or gesturing, before vanishing into the fog. Some report that the figures move as if performing mundane tasks, such as adjusting sails, rowing small boats, or tending to cargo, as though they are trapped in a perpetual moment from a long-lost era. Others describe the chilling sensation of being watched, a presence that lingers even after the figures have disappeared. Accompanying these visual phenomena are often auditory experiences. Some nighttime visitors have reported faint creaks of wood, the snap of rigging, or muffled calls of sailors carried across the water. Others describe the sound of waves lapping against unseen hulls, or the distant toll of a ship's bell echoing over the lake. These sounds are subtle, often barely audible, yet they add to the sense that Lake Huron is a living repository of the past, where the echoes of history are replayed for those sensitive to its presence. Campers along the shore and late-night fishermen have recounted moments when the lake seems to hum with a quiet, spectral activity that is impossible to attribute solely to natural sounds. Local lore helps explain some of these occurrences. Lake Huron has been a vital waterway for centuries. From the time of Native American tribes navigating its waters to European explorers and settlers establishing fishing and shipping industries along its shores, storms, shipwrecks, and drownings have been a part of the lake's history, leaving countless souls lost beneath the waves. Stories of sailors perishing in sudden tempests, captains swept overboard, and fishing crews disappearing without a trace are embedded in regional memory. Locals often interpret the ghostly ships, mysterious reflections, and spectral figures as manifestations of these long-past tragedy spirits bound to the lake, replaying moments of life interrupted by misfortune. Environmental conditions may amplify some of the strange experiences reported at Lake Huron. The lake's vast expanse and calm nights create natural mirroring effects on the water's surface. Fog rolling in from the eastern shore can obscure distant objects, creating illusions of floating lights or distant figures. The clarity of the water, combined with moonlight or artificial lights from lighthouses, can also produce eerie optical effects. Even the faintest wind across the surface can create sounds that mimic the snapping of rigging or the gentle creaking of a ship's hull. Yet, many witnesses insist that the vividness, consistency, and specificity of the apparitions exceed what can be explained by natural phenomena alone. Paranormal investigators and enthusiasts are drawn to Lake Huron to attempt to document these experiences. Cameras and audio recorders have sometimes captured anomalous figures on the water that vanish in moments. Unexplained light streaks or faint voices calling across the lake. Night vision equipment occasionally reveals shadowy shapes on distant waves or along the shoreline, and eyewitness accounts often converge on similar experiences, suggesting that the hauntings may be tied to the lake's deep historical memory rather than individual imagination. Gull Lake in Kalamazoo County, Michigan, is celebrated for its serene waters, lush surroundings, and recreational opportunities. By day, families swim along sandy shores, anglers cast lines from piers, and kayakers glide across calm waters. Yet beneath this tranquil exterior, the lake has earned a reputation for strange and unsettling phenomena, whispered about by locals and recounted by visitors. Central to these tales is the legend of a drowned child, whose presence seems to linger long after the tragedy that claimed their life. People have reported seeing the child's reflection on the water, hearing phantom cries, and witnessing shadows moving along the shoreline, even on the brightest days. Many of the lake's haunted experiences revolve around reflections that appear unnaturally vivid. Observers describe seeing the face of a child superimposed on the water's surface, as though someone is peering up from beneath the lake. These reflections often appear near the shallow edges, where swimmers or waders would normally gather, but no child is physically present. Some report that the image seems to react to their presence, looking toward them before disappearing as quickly as it appeared. In other instances, the reflection is seen on calm, sunlit waters, creating a chilling contrast with the otherwise idyllic surroundings. Locals believe the spectral reflection is the lingering spirit of the child, unable to move on from the lake that took their life. Alongside the spectral reflections, Gull Lake has produced unsettling auditory phenomena. Witnesses frequently describe hearing faint cries and sobs emanating from areas where no one is present. These sounds are often reported during quiet evenings or early mornings, when the lake is at its stillest and human activity is minimal. Anglers have paused mid-cast, feeling an inexplicable chill as a distant wail echoes across the water. Campers along the shoreline have recounted the sensation of a child calling out, only to find the beach empty when they investigate. The cries are rarely loud or aggressive. Rather, they are plaintive, mournful, and almost hypnotic, as if inviting those nearby to draw closer. Visual apparitions accompany these auditory phenomena. Shadowy forms are often spotted along the shoreline, moving with a subtle but deliberate motion. Some witnesses describe a small figure darting behind rocks or trees, only to vanish from sight moments later. Others report seeing fleeting silhouettes crossing docks or wading in the shallow water, disappearing as soon as the observer tries to approach. These glimpses are unsettling precisely because they seem to interact with the environment, causing ripples, disturbing leaves, or casting faint shadows that hint at something more than imagination. Environmental conditions at Gull Lake can enhance the eerie quality of these experiences. Yet many of the reported phenomena defy logical explanation. The specificity of the child's reflection, the timing of the phantom cries, and the apparent movement of shadows suggest that something more than ordinary optical and acoustic effects is at play. Local history adds a layer of context to the lake's spectral activity. Stories passed down through generations speak of a child who drowned decades ago, the circumstances of which are murky but tragic. Some accounts suggest an accidental slip while playing near the shore, while others hint at a brief boat mishap that left the child lost to the water. Over time, the lake became a place of remembrance and caution, with parents warning children to respect its depths and avoid wandering alone. For many, the repeated reports of ghostly reflections and cries are believed to be the lingering presence of this young life. Unable or unwilling to leave the waters that claim them, observers also note the interaction between the lake's spectral phenomena and human activity. The child's reflection often appears near swimmers or kayakers, sometimes drawing closer to those who approach the edge. Shadowy forms near the shoreline may mimic movements, subtly following visitors, only to vanish when attention is fully focused on them. Phantom cries are frequently reported in areas where people gather quietly, suggesting an uncanny sensitivity to human presence. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile impressions creates a pervasive sense of unease and awareness that Gull Lake is not merely a scenic retreat, but a place where the boundary between the living and the departed is remarkably thin. Paranormal investigators and enthusiasts occasionally visit Gull Lake, hoping to capture evidence of its unusual activity. Cameras have sometimes recorded faint, indistinct shapes near the water's edge, while audio devices occasionally capture unexplainable sobs or whispers. Eyewitness accounts often converge on similar experiences, a reflection appearing where none should exist, ripples moving without wind, shadows darting across docks, or cries that echo and fade in moments. While skeptics attribute many of these reports to natural optical effects, environmental conditions, or misinterpretation of sounds, the consistency and emotional weight of the experiences lend credibility to the lake's haunted reputation. Crystal Lake, nestled in the forests of Benzie County, Michigan, is known for its sparkling waters and serene springs. By day, it draws fishermen, kayakers, and families enjoying the calm beaches. Yet, as twilight falls, the lake transforms into a place steeped in eerie tales and unexplained phenomena. Locals and visitors alike have reported ghostly figures emerging from the mist, reflections on the water that defy explanation, and whispers that seem to drift across the lake on the evening breeze. For those who linger as daylight fades, Crystal Lake reveals a darker, spectral side that hints at a past long forgotten but never fully at rest. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at Crystal Lake is the appearance of ghostly figures. As dusk settles, some visitors claim to see shadowy shapes moving along the shoreline or wading in the shallow waters. These figures are often indistinct, resembling humans but blurred, as though the lake itself is bending reality. On several occasions, fishermen have recounted seeing a lone figure standing on the water's edge, watching silently before fading into the mist. Others have observed multiple forms, almost as if the lake is replaying a scene from decades past. These apparitions are rarely aggressive, but their presence evokes an overwhelming sense of being observed, a quiet reminder that Crystal Lake may be inhabited by more than the living. Equally unsettling are the reflections that appear on the lake's surface. Many witnesses report seeing objects or structures in the water that no longer exist. Old cabins that were dismantled decades ago appear perfectly intact in the mirrored surface, their lights glowing faintly as if inhabited. Sometimes, these reflections include people, men, women, and children, dressed in period clothing, moving along the shore or in the cabin windows. These reflections do not match the physical reality of the lake at the time, leading observers to question whether they are seeing memories imprinted on the water, residual echoes of lives long gone. Even when the sun is fully set, faint outlines of these vanished structures can shimmer on the rippling surface, appearing and disappearing with the breeze. Whispers are another hallmark of Crystal Lake's haunted reputation. People report hearing faint voices across the water, often carrying urgent messages or soft murmurs of names. These sounds are particularly pronounced in the early evening, when the air is still and the forest around the lake grows quiet. Some visitors describe the whispers as unintelligible, as if they are fragments of conversations trapped in time, while others claim to hear full phrases, pleas for help, warnings to leave, or nostalgic exchanges between friends and family. The voices seem to come from no discernible direction, drifting across the water in a way that defies explanation. Those who attempt to approach the source often find nothing, leaving an uneasy sense that the lake itself is speaking from its depths. Environmental factors contribute to the eeriness of Crystal Lake. Mist often rises from the lake in the evening, further obscuring the shoreline and giving shadowy forms an ethereal quality. Yet many of the reported phenomena, reflections of lost cabins, coherent voices, and moving figures, persist even when conditions are calm and clear. The consistency of these accounts over decades suggests that Crystal Lake as haunted nature is not merely the result of weather or light, but something far more enigmatic. Local history offers context for the spectral activity. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the area around Crystal Lake was dotted with small cabins used by loggers, fishermen, and families seeking respite from urban life. Accidents and tragedies were not uncommon. Drownings, illnesses, and the occasional fire left their mark on the community. Oral histories passed through generations recount tales of children lost to the water, cabins abandoned after sudden deaths, and travelers who vanished in the forests surrounding the lake. For many, the ghostly figures, reflections of vanished cabins, and whispers across the water are the lingering echoes of these tragedies. Reminders that the lake holds memories as deep as its waters. Those who encounter Crystal Lake's hauntings often describe a mixture of fear and awe. Witnesses report a heightened awareness of the environment, the whisper of wind through the trees, the gentle ripple of water, the subtle movement of shadows, creating a sense of being part of a larger story. While some choose to leave quickly, feeling an instinctive warning, others linger, compelled by curiosity or a desire to understand the phenomena. Kayakers have paddled through the mist, only to see figures appear on the distant shore, disappearing when approached. Anglers have cast lines only to feel a sudden chill and hear a whispered warning carried on the water. Even those who experience nothing tangible often leave with the sensation that Crystal Lake has acknowledged their presence, quietly observing from beneath its surface. Paranormal enthusiasts have occasionally visited the lake, attempting to document the phenomena. Cameras sometimes capture faint, indistinct forms along the shore, while audio devices record whispers that cannot be attributed to natural sources. Witnesses often note that the phenomena are most active near the areas where cabins once stood or along stretches of shoreline that were historically populated, reinforcing the idea that Crystal Lake is not simply haunted in a generic sense, but is tied closely to its human history. Lake Leelanau, nestled in the forests and hills of Michigan's Leelanau County, is widely admired for its clear waters, winding shoreline, and quiet charm. By day, the lake draws kayakers, anglers, and families seeking peaceful recreation, but as twilight falls, the lake takes on a more mysterious, haunting presence. Locals and visitors alike have long whispered about ghostly figures of fishermen lost decades ago, apparitions that seem to linger on the water's surface or along the wooded shores. These spectral sightings are accompanied by reflections that defy logic, as well as an eerie stillness that can descend suddenly, leaving witnesses with the unsettling sense that the lake is alive with memory and spirit. The most common reports involve ghostly fishermen appearing at night, sometimes casting lines into waters where no boats or people exist. Observers have described seeing these figures wearing old-fashioned fishing attire, moving with deliberate motions, as if caught in a routine that has lasted for decades. On quiet evenings, kayakers have paddled along the shore, only to see a man standing knee-deep in water, rod in hand, gazing intently at the lake. Moments later, the figure vanishes as if never there, leaving ripples where none should exist, and a cold draft that seems to come directly from the water. Others have reported seeing groups of spectral fishermen on foggy nights, their forms faintly illuminated in the mist, walking along the shoreline or silently drifting in small rowboats that appear and disappear without trace. Reflections on Lake Leelanau's surface are perhaps the most unsettling phenomenon. The water often mirrors the surrounding forests and hills with near-perfect clarity, yet visitors have noticed images that do not correspond to the present reality. Old docks, abandoned cabins, and boats that have long since rotted away appear shimmering in the lake as though preserved in time. More disturbing are the reflections of people, fishermen, children playing near the water, and travelers in clothing from decades past, moving in ways that seem independent of the observer. On several occasions, visitors have reported seeing ghostly figures casting lines from a dock that no longer exists or walking along the shoreline, only to find, when they glance at the real world, that the shore is empty. These reflections give the impression that the lake holds layers of time, allowing the past to coexist briefly with the present. Whispers and sounds add another layer of mystery. On calm nights, when the surrounding woods are quiet, some visitors hear soft voices carried across the lake. These are often fragmented to call for help, the name of someone long gone, or the indistinct murmur of a conversation that seems to belong to a different era. Occasionally, these voices are accompanied by the subtle sound of oars dipping into the water, the splash of fish, or the faint clatter of tackle boxes opening and closing. Those who venture closer often find nothing, and yet the sounds persist, drifting across the water in ways that seem both deliberate and impossible. The whispers and noises, combined with the visual phenomena, create a powerful sense that the lake itself is an active participant in these ghostly events. Environmental conditions at Lake Leelanau seem to enhance its haunted reputation. Mist often rises off the water in the evenings, shrouding the shoreline and obscuring trees and cabins in a soft gray veil. The lake's glassy surface can create optical illusions that make figures and lights appear where none exists, and the stillness of the night amplifies every sound. Yet the most compelling reports occur even on clear nights with calm water, suggesting that these experiences are not solely the result of weather or light conditions. The phenomena appear consistent enough that locals tell stories with specific details: the worn hat of a long-lost fisherman, the flicker of lantern light on a dock, the movement of a rowboat gliding silently across the lake. The history of Lake Leelanau provides context for these hauntings. In the early 20th century, the lake was a hub for local fishermen, as well as a gathering place for families and travelers seeking respite from urban centers. Fishing accidents, drownings, and unexpected deaths were not uncommon, and oral histories preserve tales of those who vanished in the waters or along the wooded shores. For many residents, the ghostly fishermen represent the spirits of those who never returned home, their routines replaying in a spectral echo across the lake. The apparitions and reflections may serve as reminders of lives cut short, preserving memory in a way that both fascinates and unsettles. Those who encounter the hauntings at Lake Leelanau often describe a mixture of fear, awe, and melancholy. Witnesses report feeling a heightened awareness of the surrounding environment, the ripple of water, the whisper of wind in the trees, and the subtle movement of shadows. Many choose to leave quickly, unnerved by the presence of figures that cannot be explained, while others linger, drawn by curiosity or the hope of glimpsing a phenomenon once thought impossible. Anglers have paused mid-cast to see ghostly fishermen on docks that vanished in the morning light. Kayakers have drifted past floating apparitions, their oars cutting through waters that ripple without explanation. Even those who do not see figures often feel the intense sensation of being watched, a quiet acknowledgement from the lake that its history remains alive. Paranormal enthusiasts occasionally visit to document these experiences. Cameras sometimes capture faint shapes along the shoreline, and audio devices have recorded whispers and indistinct voices when no one else is nearby. Investigators note that the phenomena are often concentrated in areas associated with past activity, such as former docks or popular fishing spots, reinforcing the notion that the hauntings are linked closely to the lake's human history. Duck Lake, nestled in Grand Traverse County, Michigan, is widely celebrated for its serene waters and lush surrounding forests, drawing visitors seeking peace and natural beauty. Yet beneath this tranquil surface lies a darker reputation, whispered among locals and travelers alike. Many who venture to the lake at dusk or during quiet fog-laden mornings report phenomena that defy explanation. Phantom boats drifting silently across the water, ghostly figures wading along the banks, and reflections of trees that bend and twist unnaturally, as if reaching for someone unseen. These reports have persisted for decades, creating an air of mystery that lingers even in broad daylight, and giving Duck Lake a reputation as one of Michigan's more quietly haunted waters. The most common sightings involve ghostly boats, often described as small rowboats or canoes, gliding across the lake without oars or visible propulsion. Witnesses recount seeing the vessels appear from thin air, moving slowly across the glassy surface, and then vanishing just as suddenly. Some say the boats are occupied by figures dressed in early 20th century clothing, perhaps fishermen or lake-goers who never returned home. A kayaker recalling a summer evening encounter described a small rowboat floating toward her with two shadowy figures seated inside, the oars hanging motionless at their sides. When she blinked, the boat had disappeared, leaving only ripples that dissipated into the still water. Others have reported seeing similar craft emerge from misty patches along the shoreline, sometimes disappearing beneath the water or drifting into areas that are too shallow to support them. Equally unsettling are the ghostly figures often seen near the lake's banks. Visitors describe seeing people standing waist-deep in water or walking along the shore, their movements deliberate and slow, yet never fully materializing. Some are glimpsed fishing silently, while others seem to stare out across the lake, unmoving, as if caught in a moment, frozen in time. Observers note that these apparitions appear only when the lake is quiet, the surrounding woods shadowed by fog, or the last rays of sunset. Those who have attempted to approach the figures often find nothing, no footprints in the soft mud, no disturbance in the water, no sound other than the gentle lap of the waves. Despite this, a lingering sense of presence remains, as if the lake itself holds the memory of these lost souls. One of the most haunting aspects of Duck Lake is the distorted reflections observed in its waters. Trees along the shore sometimes appear bent or twisted in unnatural ways, their branches reaching toward the lake as though seeking someone or something. Rocks and reeds seem to shimmer, and old docks or cabins long removed from the landscape occasionally appear mirrored on the surface. Visitors report glimpsing entire scenes reflected in the water that do not exist in reality. Children playing on a pier that is no longer there, couples strolling along the bank, and fishermen casting lines from boats that have long since rotted away. These reflections seem almost sentient, shifting subtly when one tries to focus on them, as though inviting observers to look closer before fading into the lake's dark depths. Whispers and sounds are another common occurrence. Some say that faint voices can be heard drifting across the lake, often indistinct, yet carrying an unmistakable human quality. These may be the sound of conversation, laughter, or even urgent calls for help. In some cases, witnesses report the subtle creak of oars or the splash of a line hitting water, though no boat or person is present. The sounds often follow the observer, remaining in the same relative position despite the movement of anyone on the shore. These auditory experiences are sometimes accompanied by sudden cold drafts or the feeling of being watched, reinforcing the notion that the lake is a place where the natural and supernatural intersect. The history of Duck Lake provides context for these hauntings. During the early 1900s, the lake was a popular destination for fishing, boating, and leisure activities, yet accidents were not uncommon. Drownings and disappearances were reported, some never fully explained, leaving behind communities of grieving families and whispered tales of lost souls. Over the decades, local lore grew, with stories of ghostly rowers, fishermen, and playful spirits blending with the natural mystique of the lake. Oral traditions preserve the names of some who vanished in the waters, and some residents believe that the phantom figures are their restless spirits, replaying moments of their lives or attempting to reach the living world. Those who experience Duck Lake spectral phenomena often report a complex mixture of emotions. Fear is common, especially when shadowy figures emerge from the fog, or when the distorted reflections seem to move of their own accord. Yet awe and curiosity are equally present, as many visitors feel drawn to the lake's mysterious beauty, eager to witness something beyond explanation. Some have returned multiple times, hoping to glimpse the phantom boats or hear the whispers once again. Others leave quickly, unsettled by the intensity of the sensations, the cold, the silence, and the feeling of being watched. Paranormal enthusiasts occasionally visit the lake to document these events. Cameras and audio recorders have captured faint shapes on the water, unexplained shadows along the banks, and mysterious sounds in otherwise quiet conditions. Investigators note that the phenomena are often concentrated near areas of past activity, such as old piers, shallow coves, or banks historically used for fishing and boating, suggesting a connection between the hauntings and the lake's human history. Lake Charlevoix, located in northern Michigan's Charlevoix County, is a sprawling body of water known for its pristine beauty, quiet coves, and dense surrounding forests. By day, the lake attracts boaters, fishermen, and nature enthusiasts who marvel at its clear waters and scenic shoreline. Yet, beneath this serene surface, Lake Charlevoix holds stories far darker and far more mysterious. Over the decades, locals and visitors have reported ghostly phenomena faces appearing in the water during foggy mornings, shadows moving beneath the surface, and the unmistakable sensation of being watched from across the lake. These accounts have woven a layer of eerie mystique over the lake, drawing paranormal enthusiasts and curious travelers alike. The earliest tales of haunting date back to the 19th century, when the lake was a hub for fishing, logging, and early settlement. Workers on docks and piers would occasionally vanish, sometimes during sudden storms, and some bodies were never recovered. Over time, stories emerged of faces appearing in the water, staring upward as if frozen in a moment of distress. Witnesses describe these apparitions as fleeting vague outlines of human features that dissolve when approached or reflected in sunlight. Locals refer to them as the Watchers of Charlevoix spirits, tied to tragedies that occurred along the lake's shores and waters. Foggy mornings seem to be when the lake's spectral activity is most pronounced. Fishermen venturing out at first light often report seeing ripples form without wind or current, and shadows moving beneath the surface. Some claim these shadows resemble human figures, swimming or walking just beneath the water, always staying just out of reach. Boaters have described the unsettling feeling of eyes following them, as if unseen occupants move silently beneath the waves. These experiences leave witnesses shaken, often questioning whether the lake's waters are truly as calm and empty as they appear. Shoreline visitors also report disconcerting experiences. People walking along the docks, beaches, or wooded paths that border the lake often sense being observed. Some describe sudden chills, hair standing on end, or the impression that a presence is just behind them, vanishing when they turn. Others have recounted seeing silhouettes move across the opposite shore, sometimes fleeting and sometimes remaining long enough to study. The figures appear human, yet impossibly still or slow, almost like shadows cast by another reality. These phenomena are most frequently reported during quiet hours, before dawn, or in the dimming light of dusk, when the lake's surface acts as a reflective mirror, amplifying the uncanny feeling of otherworldly attention. Multiple eyewitnesses have also described faces appearing in the water itself. These faces are not solid. They seem to emerge from the lake, forming briefly before dissolving into ripples. Sometimes they are children, other times adults, and some appear to be gazing directly at observers, as if trying to communicate a warning or plea. One longtime resident spoke of seeing a face in the water during a heavy morning fog while walking along the northern shore. He claimed the figure seemed to mouth words he could not hear and vanished when he stepped closer, leaving only the gentle lapping of waves behind. These moments, according to those who experienced them, evoke both sorrow and unease, a reminder of the lives once intertwined with the lake. Paranormal investigators have explored Lake Charlevoix, seeking explanations for the reports. Cameras set up along the shore have captured unexplained ripples and faint, shadowy movements beneath the water. Audio recordings occasionally pick up faint voices or whispers that cannot be attributed to wind, wildlife, or nearby humans. Many researchers suggest the phenomena could be examples of residual haunting, where traumatic or significant past events leave an imprint on a location. Others theorize intelligent hauntings, where the spirits actively observe, interact, or attempt to communicate with the living. Regardless of interpretation, the lake's eerie reputation persists, making it a notable sight for those interested in the paranormal. Some say the lake reacts to emotional energy. Visitors who feel fear or anxiety report intensified experiences. Ripples appear more frequently. Shadows linger longer, and the sensation of being watched becomes almost oppressive. Conversely, those who approach the lake calmly often report fleeting, subtle glimpses rather than full apparitions. This interplay between human perception and the environment lends Lake Charlevoix an air of living mystery, a place where the boundary between the natural and supernatural feels thin and permeable. Even local lore supports the idea of lingering spirits. Stories passed down through families speak of fishermen lost to sudden storms, children swept into the lake's currents, and travelers who disappeared along its shores. Some tales describe figures appearing to warn or guide visitors away from danger, while others are purely tragic, serving as a haunting reminder of mortality. The combination of water, fog, and historical accidents has cemented Lake Charlevoix as a site where the past seems never fully settled, lingering in misty shapes and watery reflections. Visitors often describe a mix of fear, fascination, and awe. The haunting beauty of the lake's waters, its calm surface reflecting the sky, the trees lining the shore, and the morning mist curling over the waves contrasts sharply with the unnerving phenomena. Witnesses leave with a sense that the lake is more than scenery. It is a keeper of memories, a silent observer, and a threshold between the living and the departed. The shadows beneath the surface, the faces in the mist, and the unrelenting sensation of being watched combine to create an atmosphere both beautiful and chilling. Higgins Lake, located in the heart of Roscommon County, Michigan, is known for its deep, clear waters and quiet, forested shoreline. By day, it is a destination for boating, fishing, and lakeside relaxation, yet beneath its serene surface and picturesque surroundings, the lake harbors a chilling reputation. Locals and visitors alike have told tales of ghostly apparitions, strange reflections, and spectral figures appearing near the water. Many believe the lake is haunted by those who lost their lives in its depths, their spirits lingering to watch over or warn the living. The stories surrounding Higgins Lake date back decades. In the early 20th century, the lake was a hub for recreational boating and fishing, but it was also the site of numerous accidental drownings, children playing near the shore, swimmers caught in sudden currents, and even experienced boaters sometimes vanished without a trace. Families mourned, and the community slowly became aware that Higgins Lake held more than natural beauty. It held memories, some of which seemed to linger beyond death. Over time, these tragic events gave rise to reports of eerie phenomena, the most common being ghostly reflections on the water. Visitors to Higgins Lake have long described seeing figures in the surface of the lake when the sun is low, or mist rolls across the water. These reflections are often subtle at first, an indistinct shimmer, a vague outline of a person, perhaps waving or beckoning. As the moments pass, the figures sometimes appear more solid, their features forming into recognizable human shapes. Yet, when observers approach, or when the light changes, the figures vanish, leaving only the quiet ripples of water behind. It is as though the lake itself holds a memory, replaying images from the past for anyone willing or unfortunate enough to witness them. Foggy mornings seem to heighten the effect. Anglers who rise before dawn often report seeing small, indistinct forms near the shore, sometimes appearing to call out or wave. One local fisherman recalled glancing toward a foggy cove and seeing what appeared to be a young boy waving, his feet just above the water's surface. Terrified yet fascinated, the man moved closer, only to find the shore empty and the mist rolling gently across the lake, as if nothing had been there at all. Experiences like these are frequently described as unnerving, leaving a lasting impression on anyone who witnesses them. Beyond the reflections, some visitors have reported hearing voices over the water, especially at night. Whispered calls, indistinct laughter, or the sound of a child crying are common reports, often coming from the direction of the deeper areas of the lake. These sounds are rarely constant, appearing only at certain hours or in specific weather conditions. as if the lake itself chooses when to reveal its secrets. Boaters have described the sudden feeling of being watched, an inexplicable chill that creeps along their arms and neck. Despite the warmth of summer or the enclosed safety of their vessel, shadowy figures are also reported along the shoreline. Evening walkers occasionally see silhouettes moving between the trees or near the water's edge. The shapes sometimes appear human, occasionally waving or attempting to call out, but they vanish when approached. Residents claim these figures are the spirits of those lost in the lake's waters, forever tethered to the place where their lives ended. Some believe they are benign, attempting to warn the living of danger, while others suggest a more sorrowful presence, replaying the tragedies of decades past. Photographs and videos taken along Higgins Lake occasionally capture anomalies. Long exposure shots reveal faint outlines on the water, as though someone is standing just beneath the surface. Some cameras pick up subtle distortions and reflections, hinting at shapes not present on the shoreline. While skeptics argue these occurrences are tricks of light and mist, those who have witnessed the phenomena firsthand insist that what they saw could not be explained by natural conditions alone. Stories have passed down through generations, cementing Higgins Lake as a place where the past and present coexist in spectral form. Locals recount tales of children who drowned and now wave from the water, fishermen who vanished calling warnings to the living, and silhouettes that linger in the fog, silently observing anyone near the lake. The lake has become a liminal space where human memory and supernatural presence intersect, a site that seems to remember the lives lost within its depths. The haunting does not deter all visitors. Some come in search of the thrill, hoping to glimpse a reflection or feel the eerie sensation of being watched. Others arrive for quiet reflection, finding comfort in the idea that the lake carries memories, that those who have passed are somehow still present, looking out across the water. Houghton Lake, nestled in the heart of Charlevoix County, Michigan, is a picturesque body of water known for its crystal-clear surface and forested things. By day, the lake reflects the sky and the surrounding pines with serene beauty, drawing boaters, fishermen, and vacationers to its shores. Yet beneath its calm exterior, Houghton Lake carries whispers of the past tragedies and lost lives that some say have left lingering spirits behind. Locals and visitors have long spoken of ghostly silhouettes on the water, strange reflections, and soft whispers that seem to float across the lake at night. The haunting stories surrounding Houghton Lake go back decades. In the early 20th century, the lake was a popular destination for summer retreats, boating excursions, and family outings. However, its popularity also brought accidents. Boaters caught in sudden storms, swimmers swept away by unexpected currents, and small watercraft tipping over all contributed to multiple fatalities over the years. Families mourned their lost loved ones, and soon, tales emerged that the lake seemed to remember the lives it had claimed. Some residents began reporting unusual occurrences on the water, phenomena that could not be explained by natural causes. The most common reports involve ghostly figures in boats. Visitors tell of seeing silhouettes drifting silently across the water, often in areas that are otherwise deserted. These figures are sometimes described as fishing, rowing, or simply sitting, appearing as though trapped in a moment from the past. One local recounted watching a small rowboat glide across the lake late at night, a lone figure inside staring toward the shore. As he approached, the boat and figure faded into the mist, leaving only the gentle ripple of water behind. Such encounters are both eerie and mesmerizing, as if the lake itself is holding on to memories of those who once enjoyed it in life. Reflections on the water's surface are another phenomenon that draws attention. Visitors have reported seeing images that do not correspond to the present people in early 20th century clothing, boats that no longer exist, and waterfront cabins that have long since disappeared. At times, the reflections appear faint and wavering, almost like a veil between the living and the dead. On foggy mornings or during twilight, the lake seems to transform into a mirror of the past, showing events that unfolded decades ago. Some observers have claimed to see families enjoying a picnic, children playing near the water, or boaters preparing to cast their lines, all reflected as though preserved in time. Even more unsettling are the whispers that sometimes drift across the lake at night. These are rarely coherent words, but soft, indistinct murmurs, laughter, or the faint calling of a name. Anglers, late-night boaters, and lakeside residents have reported hearing these sounds, often when the area is completely deserted. Some say the voices come from the direction of the water itself, carried across the still surface by an unseen current or the evening breeze. Others describe the whispers as coming from multiple directions, echoing off the trees and hills surrounding the lake, as if the spirits themselves are communicating with those who venture near. Shadowy figures are another common feature in Houghton Lake's haunted reputation. Walkers along the shore in the late evening have described seeing silhouettes moving between trees, standing at the water's edge, or drifting across the lake in small boats. These figures appear human, though sometimes they seem blurred or insubstantial. Many reports note that the figures vanish when approached, leaving only the quiet lapping of the water behind. Some locals believe these are the spirits of those who lost their lives on the lake, tied to the water where their final moments occurred. Others suggest that the figures may be drawn to people, perhaps curious or even warning those who wander too close to the deeper sections of the lake. Hikers, fishermen, and nighttime boaters have also described sudden cold spots near the shore, an inexplicable chill that descends even in warm weather. Paired with the whispering voices and occasional shadows, the feeling of being watched is almost universal in accounts from those who visit the lake after dark. Photographs and long-exposure videos sometimes capture unexplained anomalies, faint outlines on the water, glimmers of light that appear and disappear, and reflections of people who are not physically present. While skeptics argue these are tricks of light and fog, eyewitnesses insist the phenomena are far too consistent and detailed to be simple illusions. Over the years, these accounts have become woven into the fabric of Houghton Lake's lore. Locals share stories of children lost to the water who continue to play along the shoreline in spectral form, of boaters who never returned, still rowing silently across the surface, and of whispered warnings carried on the wind to anyone venturing too far after sunset. The lake has become a liminal space, where the boundary between the living and the dead seems to blur, and the past manifests in fleeting glimpses, reflections, and sounds. Visitors continue to be drawn to Houghton Lake for its natural beauty, yet those aware of its haunted reputation approach with caution. Many come seeking the thrill of encountering something otherworldly, hoping to glimpse a figure on the water or hear the whispered echoes of the past. Others visit for reflection, finding a strange comfort in the idea that the lake carries memories, ensuring that those who have passed are not forgotten. Whatever the reason, nearly all who witness the lake's spectral side leave with a story of ghostly boats, reflections from decades past, or whispers that linger in the mind long after the water has calmed. Burt Lake, nestled in Sheboygan County, Michigan, stretches across pristine waters, framed by dense forests and tranquil shoreline. By day, it is a haven for boating, fishing, and family outings, its surface reflecting the sky like a perfect mirror. Yet beyond its serene beauty, Burt Lake holds a darker side, a history marked by tragedy and stories of unexplained phenomena. For decades, locals and visitors alike have whispered of ghostly figures beneath the water, strange reflections on empty shores, and lantern lights that seem to drift without a source. The lake's calm surface hides memories of lives lost, particularly from drowning accidents that have left a lingering presence said to haunt its depths. The lake's haunted reputation traces back generations. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Burt Lake became a popular destination for summer retreats and recreational activities. Families flocked to its shores, swimming in its cool waters, and taking to the lake in small boats. However, the beauty of the lake belied its hidden dangers. Strong currents and sudden drops in depth claimed the lives of several swimmers, often in isolated areas far from the main beaches. As word of these accidents spread, local lore began to take shape. Tales of spirits trapped beneath the surface, emerging from whispers among fishermen and nighttime visitors. One of the most persistent reports involves ghostly figures swimming beneath the water. Visitors describe glimpsing human shapes just below the lake's reflective surface, sometimes rising toward the top, only to vanish without a ripple. Fishermen at dawn have recounted seeing shadows move against the water, as if swimming alongside their boats. On quiet nights, boaters sometimes hear splashes or feel the disturbance of water where no one is present, a sensation of being watched by unseen eyes beneath the surface. Many believe these figures are the souls of those who drowned, eternally bound to the waters where their lives ended. Reflections along the shoreline are another unnerving phenomenon. Observers have noted lantern-like lights glimmering across empty beaches, appearing as though someone had walked ashore carrying a lamp. These lights are fleeting, often moving in ways that defy explanation, drifting through trees or hovering just above the water before fading entirely. Some visitors claim to see figures reflected in the water that are not present on land, standing in old bathing suits or fishing attire from decades past. In the early evening or under foggy conditions, the lake transforms into a spectral mirror, reflecting moments from its history as if the past has not fully let go. Whispers on the wind are also commonly reported. Those walking near the lake at night speak of faint voices carried across the water, the indistinct murmuring of names, laughter, or cries for help. These sounds are often localized, seeming to come from specific stretches of the shoreline, or from deep within the lake itself. Some have described the voices as urgent, almost pleading, while others hear soft laughter, as though spirits are reenacting memories of past joys interrupted by tragedy. Campers, fishermen, and late-night visitors all share these accounts, describing a feeling of being observed or followed by something unseen. Shadowy figures along the lake's edges add to the eerie ambience. Walkers report dark shapes moving among the trees or standing near the water, vanishing when approached. Some accounts describe ghostly swimmers emerging near piers or docks, lingering just beneath the surface before disappearing. Even during daylight, some have captured faint, blurred figures in photographs, often near areas historically associated with drownings. Locals suggest these figures are bound to the lake by unfinished business or sudden deaths, unable to cross to the other side until the living acknowledge their presence. The sensation of sudden chills and unexplained movements is another hallmark of Burt Lake's spectral activity. Visitors often feel cold gusts or drops in temperature near sections of the shoreline where accidents occurred, even on warm summer days. Boats sometimes rock inexplicably, lanterns swing without wind, and ripples appear on the otherwise calm surface. Many report an overwhelming sense of unease when approaching the water at night, a feeling that unseen eyes are watching, or that spirits are subtly guiding or warning the living to stay away from dangerous areas. Over time, these phenomena have become part of the lore surrounding Burt Lake. Residents share tales of families lost to the water, phantom swimmers who continue to move silently beneath the surface, and lights that appear on empty shores, hinting at those who lived by the lake long ago. Anglers and boaters often tell newcomers to respect the water after dark, for it holds memories that are not always peaceful. Visitors hoping to experience the haunting are advised to bring cameras, as long-exposure photography sometimes captures strange orbs or reflections of figures not present. Many leave with a story to tell, whether it is the sighting of a shadow beneath the waves or the fleeting glow of a lantern moving along the shore. Burt Lake remains a place where beauty and tragedy coexist. Its calm waters, forested banks, and quiet beaches conceal stories of lives lost and spirits unable to move on. The ghostly swimmers, spectral reflections, and mysterious lights are constant reminders that the lake carries more than water. It carries memories and echoes of the past. Those who venture here after sunset quickly learn that Burt Lake is more than a recreational spot. It is a repository of sorrow and lingering presence, a haunting yet mesmerizing testament to the lives once lived along its shores. Houghton Lake, located in the heart of Sheboygan County, Michigan, stretches over more than 17,000 acres. its calm waters framed by dense forests and quiet shorelines. By day, it is a paradise for fishermen, boaters, and families enjoying the serene beauty of the northern Michigan landscape. But beneath the sparkling surface lies a history that locals do not speak of, likely a history of drownings, lost boats, and unexplained disappearances. For generations, Mullet Lake has been a site of eerie tales, whispered warnings, and strange occurrences. Visitors and residents alike recount ghostly reflections, shadowy figures, and fleeting glimpses of long-submerged boats, all of which suggest that the lake is more than just water and waves. It is a resting place for the spirits of those who never return to shore. The haunting reputation of Mullet Lake is rooted in its long history as a hub for fishing and transportation. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, fishermen would set out before dawn, navigating the expansive waters to provide for families and local markets. While the lake is beautiful, it is also treacherous. Sudden storms, hidden sandbars, and deep underwater channels have claimed countless lives over the decades. Stories of fishermen who vanished without a trace became common, eventually blending with local folklore to create the lake's spectral legacy. Today, these tales are more than cautionary. They are lived experiences for those who venture out onto the waters after dusk or in the early morning mist. Visitors often report seeing reflections of long-submerged boats on calm mornings when the lake is glassy and still. Some have glimpsed vessels lying beneath the surface, appearing as though floating in shallow water, even when no such boats are there. These images are fleeting and ethereal, disappearing when approached or viewed from another angle. Anglers sometimes swear that familiar silhouettes appear old fishing boats from decades past, complete with spectral fishermen who seem frozen in time, casting lines or tending nets. Some speculate that these are echoes of the past, residual energy left behind by lives ended abruptly on the lake. Shadowy figures are another frequent phenomenon. Visitors often describe shapes moving through fog or along the shoreline, figures that vanish when one draws near. These apparitions are sometimes described as men in early 20th century clothing, appearing just at the edge of vision before dissolving into the mist. Some fishermen have recounted seeing the shadows of men standing in their boats, watching silently, only to disappear when they try to call out. There are even reports of figures walking along the water's surface, vanishing as they approach the shore, leaving no footprints, no disturbance, only the lingering impression of a presence just out of reach. The fog over Mullet Lake seems to act as a veil between the living and the dead. Many of the most vivid encounters occur in early morning or late evening, when mist rises from the water and visibility is low. Drivers along the lake's winding roads have reported seeing lights hovering over the water, reflecting off fog and creating the illusion of boats gliding silently. Some claim the lights belong to spirits of lost fishermen, still attempting to reach their docks, while others believe they are warnings, guiding the living away from dangerous areas. Regardless, these luminous phenomena are both mesmerizing and unnerving, a subtle reminder that the lake carries more than memories, it carries souls. Sounds too are reported with unnerving consistency. Those who spend nights along the shoreline sometimes hear the soft splash of oars or the distant creaking of boat hulls. Faint voices, indistinct yet urgent, are said to echo across the water, calling names or issuing warnings to those nearby. Even when no other humans are present, the sounds can be heard, appearing to move across the lake as if circling the listener. Many have described a feeling of being watched, a sensation that unseen eyes track their every movement from within the fog or beneath the surface. Mullet Lake's haunting is not limited to water and fog. Along its banks, explorers report cold drafts and sudden gusts of wind in areas where no natural cause exists. Some have felt invisible hands brushing past them while walking along empty docks or shoreline paths. Hikers and campers have claimed that shadows in the trees seem to shift with intention, drawing their attention only to vanish when confronted. It is as though the lake's spirits extend their presence to the land, creating an environment where the line between the living and the dead is blurred. The lore surrounding Mullet Lake has become an intrinsic part of its identity. Residents speak in hushed tones about lost fishermen and submerged boats, sharing stories passed down through generations. Those who come seeking the supernatural are often left with a mixture of awe and trepidation, understanding that this lake is not merely a natural wonder, but a repository of lingering energy and unresolved tragedy. Despite its beauty, Mulet Lake demands respect. Visitors who ignore local warnings report unsettling experiences. From sudden chills and disembodied whispers to the sight of shadowy figures disappearing into fog. Even experienced boaters recount eerie sensations of being followed, of unseen hands adjusting their vessel or guiding them away from areas deemed unsafe by the spirits who linger there. The lake, in this sense, is alive with memory, a place where the past continues to manifest itself in the present, reminding all who enter that it is more than just a body of water. Houghton Lake, nestled in Muskegon County, Michigan, is a vast and pristine body of water known for its clear blue depths and surrounding pine forests. By day, it is a haven for swimmers, boaters, and nature lovers. Yet, as dusk settles, locals warn that the lake reveals a far darker, more mysterious side. Over the decades, countless stories have emerged about phantom lights hovering above the water, ghostly silhouettes on the shore, and apparitions reflected in its depths. These reports have transformed Houghton Lake from a simple scenic attraction into a site of chilling folklore, where the boundary between the natural world and the supernatural appears to blur. Visitors often speak of the lake's reflections behaving strangely. On calm nights, when the water is like glass, some have reported seeing figures in the surface that do not correspond to any living person. Shadows of people, sometimes identifiable as long-past residents, fishermen, or children, appear along the shoreline or drifting in small boats, only to vanish when approached. Some witnesses claim that the figures seem to move intentionally, as though beckoning or warning them away. The phenomenon is most commonly reported during late evenings or early mornings when fog blankets the lake, creating a thick, ghostly veil that enhances the eeriness of the reflections. Phantom lights are another hallmark of Houghton Lake's haunted reputation. Many locals describe seeing soft, glowing orbs hovering just above the water, moving slowly as if following invisible currents. These lights are said to shift in intensity, sometimes dimming to almost nothing before suddenly brightening again. Some theorize that the lights are connected to those who drowned in the lake decades ago, restless spirits unable to move on. Others suggest the lights are manifestations of residual energy, echoes of past tragedies, playing out in visual form. Regardless of their origin, the lights are both mesmerizing and unnerving, compelling viewers to pause in awe, while also stirring a deep, instinctive unease. The lake is also known for ghostly apparitions along its banks. Campers, hikers, and fishermen have reported seeing shadowy figures emerge from the treeline, moving silently along paths or disappearing into the mist. Some of these figures are described as wearing clothing from previous centuries, leading many to believe they are spirits of those who lived near the lake long ago. Fishermen have told of glimpsing these figures, standing in small rowboats at the water's edge, watching silently before vanishing as if melting into the darkness. Occasionally, visitors hear footsteps approaching or retreating along the shoreline, only to find themselves completely alone. The sensation of being observed is so strong that even experienced outdoorsmen have admitted to feeling a pervasive chill, a sense that the lake itself is aware of their presence. Accompanying these visual phenomena are a variety of auditory experiences. People exploring Houghton Lake at night have reported hearing whispers carried across the water, sometimes calling names or issuing warnings. Others describe faint, rhythmic tapping or splashing noises, as if someone were walking along the surface of the water or dragging a small boat across the shore. Even when no one is visible, the sounds seem to move naturally through the environment, echoing off the trees and hills, lending an unsettling realism to the supernatural experiences. The lake, in this sense, is not only a visual spectacle, but a stage for auditory hauntings that unsettle visitors on multiple levels. Houghton Lake has a long history of drownings and disappearances, many of which have contributed to its spectral reputation. Historical records tell of fishermen who failed to return from evening excursions, children swept away by sudden currents, and travelers who vanished along the densely wooded shorelines. Over time, these events have been woven into the local folklore, giving rise to stories that frame the lake as both beautiful and treacherous, a place where the dead remain present and the living are only temporary visitors. These tragedies linger in the collective memory of the community, shaping the perception of the lake as a haunted location. Beyond personal accounts, some investigators and enthusiasts have attempted to document the supernatural activity at Houghton Lake. Long exposure photography occasionally captures faint orbs and unusual streaks of light across the water's surface. Paranormal researchers, using audio recording devices, have reported unexplained whispers and sudden static that seem to respond to human presence. While skeptics often attribute these occurrences to natural phenomena, reflections, fog, and auditory illusions, the consistency of reports over decades suggests something far more elusive and unsettling. The lake's ghostly reputation has also influenced how visitors approach it after dark. Many locals advise that the area is safest during daylight hours, when visibility and calm conditions reduce the likelihood of strange encounters. At night, however, the lake is described as watchful, as though the spirits of the past patrol its surface and shoreline. Boaters report the sense of being followed by unseen eyes, and hikers often experience sudden, inexplicable cold spots along trails near the water. The feeling of caution is not merely psychological. It is woven into the stories passed down from one generation to the next. Despite tour, perhaps because of its haunted reputation, Houghton Lake continues to draw curiosity seekers. Photographers, paranormal enthusiasts, and thrill seekers are drawn to the lake by the chance to witness phantom lights, ghostly reflections, and the chilling auditory phenomena. Many return with stories of fleeting shadows, strange voices, and reflections of people who no longer exist. These encounters reinforce the lake's status as a place where the natural and supernatural converge, where beauty and unease coexist, and where every ripple in the water might conceal a memory, a warning, or a spirit still wandering the depths. Crooked Lake, tucked away in the forests of Emmett County, Michigan, is a quiet, scenic body of water, known for its twisting shoreline and dense surrounding woods. By day, it is a haven for anglers, kayakers, and families enjoying the serene environment. But as twilight descends, the lake is said to take on an eerie, otherworldly quality. For decades, locals and visitors alike have shared stories of ghostly shapes gliding beneath its dark waters, reflections that seem to move independently, and glimpses of long-forgotten events playing out across its surface. These accounts have given Crooked Lake a reputation as one of northern Michigan's most mysterious and haunted waterways. Many of the reports begin with the lake's reflections on calm nights when the water becomes a smooth, glassy mirror. People have described seeing scenes that do not align with reality. Sometimes, these reflections show figures fishing or boating in places where no one is present, while other times, they depict events from decades past. Children playing along the shore, fishermen casting lines that vanished before anyone could see them, or rowboats drifting with no one aboard. These images often appear fleetingly, lasting only a few seconds before the water returns to its natural, undisturbed state. Witnesses report that attempting to approach the reflections directly causes them to dissolve, leaving only ripples in the water and an unshakable feeling of unease. Ghostly shapes moving beneath the surface are another common phenomenon. Swimmers and boaters have reported seeing dark humanoid silhouettes gliding just below the lake's surface, moving with purpose, yet remaining completely silent. Some describe figures reaching toward them, only to vanish when looked at directly. Anglers have recounted moments when their lines are tugged by invisible forces, as if unseen hands beneath the water are interacting with them. These experiences often leave witnesses shaken, unsure whether they have glimpsed spirits, memories imprinted upon the water, or some other unexplained phenomena. The lake is also known for its auditory oddities. On quiet nights, the sound of faint splashing, whispers, or distant laughter has been reported, with no apparent source. These sounds are often accompanied by sudden chills that move across the shore or along boats, heightening the sensation that the lake is alive with unseen presence. Visitors have described moments when the whispers seem to call their names, or when footsteps crunch along empty shoreline trails, only to find the paths completely deserted. Such experiences contribute to the growing lore that Crooked Lake is a place where the past lingers, echoing through water and air in ways that defy explanation. Historical tragedies appear to play a central role in the lake's haunted reputation. Records tell of drownings, boating accidents, and lost travelers dating back over a century. Each incident adds a layer to the lore, with the spirits of those who perished said to remain tethered to the lake. Some of the ghostly reflections and shapes are thought to be connected to these events, a lingering presence that recalls lost lives and unfinished stories. Locals often recount tales of families who lost children in the lake, fishermen who never returned from evening excursions, and travelers swept away by sudden storms. Over time, these tragedies have become woven into the collective consciousness, casting a spectral shadow over the otherwise tranquil water. Several visitors claim that the lake reacts to fear and attention. Those approaching the shore at night sometimes feel sudden gusts of wind, cold currents in the water, or even vibrations along the dock that cannot be explained. Some say the ghostly reflections intensify when observed carefully, and that apparitions move in response to a person's presence. Boats have been seen rocking gently without wind, ripples forming on perfectly still water, and shadows flitting beneath the surface in patterns that suggest conscious movement. These phenomena, whether psychological or supernatural, reinforce the lake's reputation as a living, haunted environment. Crooked Lake also has a tradition of ghostly lights, small orbs, appearing faintly above the water or drifting along the shoreline, are frequently reported by late-night visitors. The lights move slowly, sometimes vanishing when approached, and occasionally appear near the reflections of phantom figures. Some believe the orbs represent the spirits of those lost in the lake or energy imprints left by past tragedies. Others see them as warnings, signaling where the lake holds danger or where the boundary between the living and the dead grows thin. Witnesses describe these lights as both mesmerizing and unsettling, their quiet glow illuminating the water's surface while amplifying the sense of mystery and foreboding. Auditory phenomena, visual apparitions, and historical tragedies all combine to make Crooked Lake a location of deep intrigue. Visitors are often compelled to explore, despite the warnings, drawn by the chance to witness the strange reflections, phantom shapes, and ghostly lights that have been reported for generations. Those who return with stories speak of moments of awe, mixed with fear, recalling the sense that the lake is observing them, guiding them, or even testing their courage. Even for those who do not believe in ghosts, the experiences at Crooked Lake remain unsettling. The natural beauty of the water, the quiet stillness of the surrounding forests, and the lake's hidden coves create an environment that encourages reflection. Yet it also provides the perfect canvas for mysterious phenomena to occur. Whether explained by folklore, history, or the human mind, the stories of ghostly shapes gliding beneath the water and shifting reflections have persisted, leaving a lasting impression on all who visit. Silver Lake, nestled in the forests of Oceana County, Michigan, has long been known for its pristine waters and scenic surroundings. By day, it is a tranquil escape for boaters, anglers, and families enjoying the sun along its shores. Yet as darkness falls, Silver Lake transforms into something far more mysterious. Locals whisper of ghostly reflections, shadowy figures moving beneath the water, and whispers that drift across the surface on silent nights. Over the years, these tales have grown into a reputation for the lake as a place where the ordinary laws of nature seem to bend, leaving visitors with an eerie sense that something unseen is watching from the depths. The most frequently reported phenomena at Silver Lake involve its reflections. Witnesses often describe seeing images on the water's surface that do not match reality, people standing on the shore who are not there, boats gliding silently with no occupants, or figures walking along the opposite bank when no one has been present. These reflections are fleeting, appearing for only moments before dissolving into the dark ripples of the lake. Some visitors have recounted moments when they reached toward the reflected images, only to have the water remain perfectly still, as though whatever they were seeing existed outside the boundaries of the physical world. Many claim that the reflections sometimes replay events from decades past, fishermen casting lines that vanished, children playing along the bank, and couples strolling silently under the trees. Shadowy shapes moving beneath the lake's surface add another layer to its haunting reputation. Swimmers and boaters alike report seeing indistinct figures gliding just below the water, sometimes reaching toward them and vanishing when looked at directly. These forms are described as humanoid in shape, but fluid in motion, drifting with a quiet presence that seems aware of the living on the surface. Anglers have occasionally noted that their lines are tugged by invisible forces, or that their boats rock slightly without wind or current. Many who encounter these phenomena speak of an unshakable feeling of being observed, as though the lake itself contains sentient eyes beneath its calm exterior. Auditory experiences at Silver Lake are equally unsettling. On quiet nights, whispers float across the water, sometimes calling a visitor's name or mimicking fragments of conversations long past. Some witnesses report hearing soft laughter, the distant clinking of boat oars, or the gentle splash of unseen swimmers. These sounds appear to originate from no identifiable source, heightening the sense that the lake is alive with echoes of the past. A sudden drop in temperature often accompanies these noises, and some explorers describe chills racing across their skin as they navigate the shoreline or paddle in small boats. Historical tragedies are thought to underpin many of the lake's ghostly occurrences. Records and oral histories describe drownings, boating accidents, and sudden storms claiming lives over the past century. Locals say that the spirits of those who perished remain tethered to Silver Lake, their presence lingering in the rippling waters and along the quiet shores. Tales of children swept away while playing near the water, fishermen who vanished in the fog, and couples lost to sudden storms have been passed down through generations. These tragic events are often linked to the reflections and shadowy figures that visitors report, suggesting that the lake itself preserves echoes of these long-ago incidents. Some say Silver Lake reacts to the emotions and attention of those who approach. Visitors who linger near the water after dark report feeling gusts of wind from nowhere, unexpected ripples disturbing the calm surface, or the sensation of invisible hands brushing against them. The ghostly reflections sometimes intensify when closely observed, and the shadowy forms beneath the water may seem to move in response to a person's gaze or movement. Boats may rock gently, lights shimmer unnaturally across the surface, and the water occasionally parts in patterns that suggest awareness of those above. These interactions create a sense that Silver Lake is not merely haunted, but interactive, a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead are thin. Ghostly lights are another phenomenon reported at Silver Lake. Small orbs often appear floating above the water, drifting silently along the shorelines, or hovering near the reflections of the spectral figures. These lights are described as faint but steady, illuminating the water just enough to catch the attention of anyone nearby. Some witnesses believe these orbs represent the spirits of those lost to the lake, while others think they serve as warnings to keep visitors from venturing too far into its depths. Whether guidance, omen, or haunting, the lights leave an impression of both beauty and unease, their slow movements mirrored in the water below. Visitors drawn to Silver Lake at night often describe a mix of awe and fear. The lake's calm beauty contrasts sharply with the eerie phenomena, creating an atmosphere that is both mesmerizing and unsettling. The combination of ghostly reflections, shadowy figures, whispering voices, and mysterious lights has cemented the lake's reputation as one of Oceana County's most haunted sites. Even for those skeptical of ghosts, the strange occurrences challenge the mind and imagination, leaving an impression that the lake is more than it seems. Elk Lake, located in the dense forests of Antrim County, Michigan, is a body of water known for its natural beauty, but those who visit after sunset often speak of an entirely different kind of presence. By day, the lake shimmers under the sunlight, drawing anglers, kayakers, and nature enthusiasts to its tranquil shores. Yet as night falls, a more unsettling aspect of Elk Lake comes to life. Visitors consistently report seeing ghostly figures standing along the shoreline, seemingly watching silently, and reflections on the water that appear to mirror events long before their time. These apparitions are fleeting but unmistakable, creating a sense of unease that lingers long after leaving the lake. One of the most frequently mentioned phenomena is the appearance of figures on the shore. Witnesses describe seeing outlines of men, women, and even children, all standing motionless, staring across the water or toward the forest beyond. Some claim these figures are dressed in clothing styles from the 19th or early 20th century, while others appear in modern attire, though ethereal and indistinct. When approached, these apparitions often vanish instantly, leaving the visitor alone with only the sound of rippling water and the rustle of trees in the night wind. Anglers and campers have described setting up near these figures, only to glance away briefly and return to find the shapes gone, as if they were never there at all. Reflections on the water add another layer of mystery to Elk Lake. On calm nights, visitors sometimes see perfectly still reflections that appear normal at first, but then subtle changes occur. Ripples emerge without wind, shadows move beneath the water, and objects, sometimes entire trees or dock structures, appear where none exists. These reflections often precede sudden changes in the lake's behavior, such as localized waves, sudden gusts of wind, or storms that appear to form out of nowhere. Some witnesses interpret these occurrences as warnings, suggesting that the lake spirits communicate through the water itself, hinting at unseen dangers or disturbances in the natural world. Sounds around Elk Lake often accompany the visual phenomena. Campers and late-night visitors have reported whispers that drift across the water, soft laughter, or voices calling their names. Some hear the distinct sound of footsteps along the shoreline, though no one else is present. The noises often seem to come from multiple directions at once, echoing in the forest and making it difficult to pinpoint their source. Occasionally, boats tied to docks will rock gently, or small objects float to the surface, as if disturbed by invisible hands. These auditory experiences amplify the sense that the lake is alive with unseen presences, aware of those who traverse its edges. Historical accounts offer some context for the hauntings. Elk Lake has a history marked by sudden storms, drownings, and mysterious disappearances. Records tell of families and fishermen lost to unexpected waves or submerged hazards. And local lore speaks of children wandering too far from shore only to vanish without a trace. Many believe that these tragic events have left lingering spirits, tied to the lake through unfinished business or tragic endings. The ghostly figures, reflections, and unexplained phenomena reported today are often linked to these historical tragedies, reinforcing the belief that the lake is more than a natural landmark, is a repository of memory, loss, and lingering presence. Several visitors describe the lake as having a responsive nature. The shadowy figures seem to react to the observer's movement, sometimes appearing closer when someone approaches, only to vanish the moment contact is attempted. The water's surface appears to respond to emotions, with ripples forming when fear or apprehension increases, and strange lights or reflections intensifying under quiet observation. Boaters have reported seeing apparitions in their path, only for the shapes to glide to the shoreline as the boat nears, guiding or warning without a word. Visual anomalies extend to ghostly lights above and around the lake. Faint orbs often float along the shoreline, drift across the water, or hover just above treetops. These lights vary in color, brightness, and movement, and they sometimes illuminate the ghostly reflections for a brief moment before fading into the darkness. Many witnesses interpret these lights as spirits or manifestations connected to the lake's tragic past, guiding or warning those who wander too close to its more dangerous areas. Others believe the lights are residual energy, echoes of past events replaying in the air above the lake. Encounters at Elk Lake are often described as a mixture of awe and dread. The serene beauty of the water at night contrasts sharply with the disquieting experiences, creating an atmosphere that is mesmerizing and unsettling at the same time. Visitors report an intense feeling of being watched, a heightened awareness of unseen presences, and the sensation that time behaves differently near the water. Whether it is the shadowy figures, sudden reflections, or ghostly lights, each element contributes to a growing lore that frames Elk Lake as one of Antrim County's most haunted locations. Those who return after dark often do so with a mix of curiosity and caution. The lake's mysterious reflections, shadowy figures, whispers, and lights create an experience that lingers in the mind long after leaving. Locals advise caution, warning visitors not to venture alone and to respect the lake's enigmatic presence. Whether as a natural marvel or a site of supernatural occurrences, Elk Lake continues to intrigue and unsettle those who approach, offering a haunting glimpse into a world where the boundary between the living and the spectral is as fluid as the water itself. Lake St. Clair, nestled between Michigan and Ontario, has long been admired for its vast, tranquil waters and scenic shoreline. By day, the lake sparkles under the sunlight, attracting boaters, anglers, and tourists eager to enjoy its natural beauty. But as darkness falls, a different side of Lake St. Clair emerges, one that locals and late-night visitors insist is haunted by the spirits of sailors and lost ships from storms long ago. On calm nights, the surface of the lake can transform into a ghostly mirror, reflecting phantom vessels that no longer exist and shadowy figures moving silently across the misty waters. Witnesses frequently describe seeing ships appear suddenly in the fog, outlines faint but distinct, with sails that ripple as if caught in an invisible breeze. These apparitions often resemble vessels from the 19th or early 20th centuries, when shipping traffic on the lake was at its peak. Observers report that the ghostly ships drift slowly, eerily silent, with no wake in the water, creating an unsettling impression of weightless movement. Some claim the vessels appear to replay tragic events from the past storms, collisions, or disappearances, before vanishing as mysteriously as they arrived. The sailors themselves are equally spectral. Shadowy figures have been spotted on decks, sometimes waving to those watching from the shore or nearby boats. Others are seen standing rigidly at the bow, staring across the water with expressions frozen in time. When observers attempt to approach, the figures vanish, leaving only fog and the faint echo of a horn or creaking wood. Some witnesses report hearing faint conversations, shouts, or commands that carry across the lake as if the sailors are replaying their final moments. These experiences have given rise to the local legend that the lake retains the memories of all who were lost upon it, bound to the water by tragedy. Reflections on the lake's surface often amplify the eerie atmosphere. Calm nights can produce glass-like water, reflecting not only the ghostly ships, but distorted images of the shoreline, trees, and even observers themselves. Locals have reported seeing their own reflections interacting with the phantom vessels, their faces appearing startled or beckoning in the mirrored water, though no movement occurs in reality. The lake's surface occasionally ripples or shimmers without wind or disturbance, reinforcing the idea that unseen forces manipulate the water. Some witnesses have even reported seeing entire fleets of lost ships reflected together, each one moving as if navigating a silent parade of the forgotten. Auditory phenomena are common at Lake St. Clair after dark. Observers have described hearing the creak of rigging, the splash of oars, or the distant call of sailors, even when no boats are present. The sounds often echo unusually across the water, creating an effect that feels both near and far at the same time. Occasionally, ghostly horns or bells can be heard, reminiscent of storm warnings or distress signals from decades past. Some visitors have even reported phantom collisions, hearing the clash of timbers and frantic shouts, only to find the lake calm and empty once the sounds fade. Historical records suggest why Lake St. Clair might hold such residual energy. The lake was once a bustling hub for shipping and commerce, but treacherous storms and sudden squalls claimed numerous vessels and lives over the decades. Local folklore tells of crews trapped by sudden storms, vessels running aground, or captains and passengers lost to the icy water. Some legends even describe entire ships vanishing, leaving only phantom echoes of their journey to haunt the lake. It is this history of danger and tragedy that many believe has left a lasting imprint explaining the ghostly reflections and apparitions that visitors report today. Visual and atmospheric anomalies further heighten the lake's eerie reputation. Dense fog frequently forms over the water at night, obscuring the horizon and making it difficult to distinguish between reality and reflection. Occasionally, faint lights appear floating above the water, sometimes tracing the outline of a ship or illuminating the shadowy figures of sailors. These lights are described as flickering lanterns, spectral in nature, and they often vanish if approached too closely. Some visitors interpret the lights as warnings or guiding spirits, while others see them as remnants of past lives, replaying final moments in the fog. The lake's haunted presence is not limited to sailors and ships. Some witnesses report ghostly footprints along the shoreline, wet impressions that appear and disappear without explanation. Others have seen shadowy figures climbing out of the water, only to vanish into the trees moments later. Boaters often recount feeling an invisible current pushing them off course or encountering sudden, inexplicable gusts that chilled them to the bone. These subtle interactions suggest that Lake St. Clair is more than a static backdrop, for ghostly images is an active participant, reacting to those who venture too close to its mysterious depths. Encounters at Lake St. Clair leave lasting impressions. Visitors often describe an uneasy mix of awe. The combination of phantom ships, shadowy sailors, distorted reflections, and unexplained sounds creates an experience that is simultaneously mesmerizing and unsettling. Many return to the lake, drawn by curiosity or fascination, but they do so cautiously, aware that the waters may conceal unseen watchers and the echoes of history replaying endlessly. Lake St. Clair's spectral activity serves as a reminder of the lake's long, sometimes tragic past. Each ghostly ship, shadowy sailor, and flickering light tells a story of lives lost, storms endured, and the persistent presence of those who never left. For those who dare to visit after dark, the lake offers a chilling glimpse into a world where the living and the lost share the same waters, where calm reflections may hide centuries of memory, and where the fog can carry both whispers and warnings. Across the silent expanse, Lake Superior, the largest of the Great Lakes, has long been celebrated for its breathtaking beauty and vast, untamed waters. Its shoreline in Michigan's Upper Peninsula offers rugged cliffs, dense forests, and windswept beaches that seem to stretch endlessly. Yet beneath the scenic surface lies a darker reputation, whispered about among locals and travelers alike. For centuries, the lake has claimed countless ships, sailors, and lives, and many believe that the tragedies are not entirely gone. Visitors report ghostly phenomena that suggest the lake itself holds memories of the past, phantom lights hovering above the waves, spectral vessels drifting silently in the mist, and faint cries carried on the cold, relentless wind. Those who explore the shoreline at night describe eerie scenes that defy explanation. Ghost ships are a recurring theme. Out in the fog-laden waters, the silhouettes of old freighters and schooners are said to appear, often illuminated by a dim, unnatural glow. These vessels sometimes seem to drift aimlessly, and at other times, they reenact the last moments of their fateful journeys. Witnesses have described seeing sails billow without wind and decks creaking as though loaded with cargo. Some claim that the ship's movements are deliberate, almost as if the spirits aboard are trying to communicate a warning or replay history for those who watch. Phantom lights are another hallmark of Lake Superior's haunted reputation. Often, small orbs appear hovering above the water or skimming across waves. These lights are reported as white, bluish, or even faintly green, and they sometimes mimic the movements of lanterns from decades past. Witnesses have seen them tracing the outlines of a sunken ship, dancing across the waves, or clustering near a rocky shore where a vessel went down. On particularly foggy nights, the lights seem to interact with the wind, bobbing and shifting in ways that suggest an unseen presence is guiding them. Many interpret the lights as the lingering souls of sailors, still patrolling the waters where they once lived and worked. Sound plays a crucial role in these hauntings. Visitors often report hearing disembodied cries, shouts, or the clang of rigging across the lake, even when no one else is nearby. The wind carries these noises in strange, disorienting ways, sometimes making it difficult to discern whether the sounds are real or imagined. Faint bells, ship horns, and splashes are common auditory phenomena, echoing eerily across the cold waters. Some explorers have reported hearing frantic orders or the panic of sailors during storms, their voices growing louder as one moves closer to the water's edge and fading mysteriously when approached directly. The combination of sound, mist, and ghostly visuals can leave even the most skeptical observers with an uneasy sense that history is unfolding in real time. Reflections on the water add another layer of unease. On calm nights, the lake acts as a perfect mirror, showing not just the present landscape, but sometimes images from the past. Observers have reported seeing the outlines of shipwrecks long forgotten, sailors standing on decks, or cargo shifting as if frozen in a moment of panic. These reflections are often distorted, subtly moving or shifting in ways that defy physics, giving the impression that the water is alive with memory. Some visitors even see their own reflections interacting with these apparitions, their features warping or changing as if merged with the spirits of those lost long ago. The Upper Peninsula's shoreline is notoriously treacherous, with sudden storms, strong currents, and hidden shoals that have claimed countless lives. Historical records confirm numerous shipwrecks, and local lore has preserved the stories of sailors lost to the lake's icy depths. It is this history that many believe fuels the spectral activity. Phantom ships are thought to be echoes of these disasters, and the lights and sounds are reminders of the people who perished on Lake Superior's unforgiving waters. Even today, modern mariners respect the lake, aware that it can be both beautiful and deadly, and some heed the tales of ghostly warnings when navigating its shores at night. The phenomena extend beyond just ships and sailors. Some visitors report shadowy figures along the shoreline, standing motionless or moving toward the water before vanishing into the mist. Others describe sudden gusts of wind or unexplained cold spots that sweep across the beach, often coinciding with the appearance of a ghostly vessel. Boaters have recounted feeling invisible forces tugging at their craft or hearing the sound of oars dipping into water that is perfectly still. These experiences suggest that Lake Superior is not just a passive witness to tragedy, but an active presence, responding to those who enter its haunted domain. Encounters on Lake Superior leave lasting impressions. Many who experience these phenomena describe a mix of awe and fear, caught between the lake's natural grandeur and the uncanny events that unfold in the dark. The spectral ships, ghostly lights, mysterious reflections, and chilling sounds create an atmosphere that is both mesmerizing and unsettling. Explorers are often drawn back, curious to see more, yet wary of venturing too far, knowing that the lake's restless spirits may be watching. Houghton Lake in Roscommon County is renowned for its clear, deep waters and scenic beauty, attracting visitors for boating, fishing, and quiet retreats along its shores. Yet beneath the picturesque surface lies a darker reputation. For decades, locals have whispered about ghostly phenomena that defy explanation. Travelers and residents alike report eerie sightings, strange reflections, and inexplicable events that have transformed this serene lake into a place of haunted intrigue. Many accounts focus on ghostly fishermen who appear on the water at night. Witnesses describe seeing small rowboats or canoes drifting silently along the lake, often occupied by figures dressed in old-fashioned fishing attire. These figures sometimes cast lines into the water, their movements deliberate, yet strangely ethereal. Observers note that the boats often appear without wakes, gliding effortlessly across the surface as if unbound by the laws of physics. Those who attempt to approach the boats find them vanishing instantly, leaving the water calm and undisturbed as though nothing had been there at all. Reflections on Houghton Lake are another source of unease. On still evenings, the water can become like a mirror, revealing more than the familiar shoreline. Visitors report seeing faces in the water that do not belong to anyone nearby, often pale, sorrowful, or distorted. Some claim these are the faces of those who drowned in the lake years ago, their images lingering just beneath the surface. At times, These reflections move independently, turning to watch observers, or seeming to plead silently for help. The effect is subtle at first, a flicker here, a ripple there, but can grow startlingly vivid, leaving witnesses shaken by what they believe they have seen. Objects appearing on the lake's surface are a recurring phenomenon. Fishing gear, small boats, or floating lanterns have been reported by visitors, only to vanish as soon as anyone attempts to investigate. Some describe seeing lanterns bobbing along the water, casting pale glows across the lake, and then disappearing without leaving any trace of light behind. These sudden vanishings are often accompanied by an inexplicable chill in the air, a sensation of being watched, or faint whispers carried on the wind. Locals speculate that these are manifestations of spirits, tied to old accidents or unresolved deaths, reluctant to leave the world of the living entirely. Sounds around Houghton Lake add to the atmosphere of the unexplained. Observers have reported the quiet splash of oars on the water, the subtle rustle of movement in the reeds, and the occasional faint laughter or call that seems to come from nowhere. The lake's quiet nights amplify these sounds, making them appear to emanate from the depths themselves. Some visitors have recounted hearing voices calling their names, soft and urgent, urging them to look at the water or warning them to step back. The combination of reflective surfaces, quiet lapping waves, and spectral phenomena creates an eerie theater in which the past seems to replay itself for those willing to watch. The history of Houghton Lake adds weight to these tales. Over the decades, accidents and drownings have occurred, some of which remain poorly documented. Locals insist that these tragic events left lingering impressions on the water itself, a kind of residual energy that manifests as apparitions or ghostly activity. Ghostly fishermen, vanishing objects, and reflective faces may be echoes of these incidents, replayed through the calm surface of the lake for any who are attentive enough to see. Residents and repeat visitors often speak of the lake with a mix of respect and wariness, understanding that while it is a place of natural beauty, it is also a site where past lives and present curiosity intersect. Nighttime is when Houghton Lake's haunted character is most pronounced. Fog often drifts across the water, muting sound and distorting light. In these conditions, ghostly figures seem more tangible. Reflections appear sharper, and the movements of spectral boats are more easily perceived. People who venture near the shore after dark report sudden drops in temperature, as though the water itself exhales a cold breath. Whispers, distant splashes, and the faint flicker of moving lights heighten the sense that something unseen is present. Many describe the experience as a mixture of awe and fear, drawn to witness these apparitions, yet anxious to remain safe from whatever force is behind them. Houghton Lake is not limited to waterborne phenomena. Some visitors have reported shadowy figures along the shoreline, moving silently among trees or stepping out of the mist, only to vanish as quickly as they appeared. Others ascribe hearing footsteps on docks or the soft creak of wooden planks where no one is present. Combined with the spectral reflections on the water, these sightings reinforce the idea that the lake and its surroundings are haunted by lingering memories and spirits that refuse to rest, even during daylight hours. Subtle signs hint at the lake's haunted character. Some fishermen have remarked on sudden disturbances in otherwise calm waters, ripples appearing without wind or current. Boaters have noticed objects floating in the distance that disappear when approached, as if the lake itself is playing tricks on perception. While the most dramatic experiences occur at night, these daytime anomalies suggest that Houghton Lake's otherworldly presence may be constant, waiting for those perceptive enough to notice. Lake Cadillac, nestled in Wexford County, is known for its pristine waters, tranquil surroundings, and scenic sunsets that draw visitors from near and far. Yet beneath its calm surface and serene reputation lies a darker, more mysterious side. Locals have long whispered about the lake's haunted character, citing eerie sightings, inexplicable reflections, and ghostly figures that appear to walk along its shores at twilight. Those who venture close after sundown sometimes feel a chill in the air, hear faint whispers carried on the breeze, or witness phenomena that defy natural explanation, turning what seems to be a peaceful retreat into a landscape of lingering spirits. Many accounts center around spectral figures seen along the lake's edges. Witnesses describe silhouettes of men, women, and children wandering the shoreline, often in clothing that seems outdated by decades. These figures appear during the fading light of evening, moving silently as if caught between this world and the next. Some observers report that the figures walk with purpose, following invisible paths along the water's edge, while others seem to pause and glance toward those who are watching. In some instances, the figures disappear entirely when approached, leaving only footprints in the damp sand or faint ripples in the water to mark their presence. Reflections on Lake Cadillac add another layer of the supernatural. On calm evenings, the lake's surface can mirror the sky perfectly, yet for some, it shows more than just clouds and treetops. Visitors have reported seeing long-gone cabins, docks, and small settlements reflected on the water places that no longer exist. These reflections appear vivid, sometimes showing smoke curling from chimneys or lantern lights glowing warmly in the windows. Observers often feel compelled to watch, drawn by a sense that the water is revealing moments frozen in time. Glimpses of history overlaid upon the present. Attempting to reach these reflected images is futile. They vanish upon approach, leaving only the smooth, unbroken surface behind. Ripples in the still waters further enhance the lake's eerie reputation. People boating or walking along the shore have described seeing circular disturbances form spontaneously, even when no wind or movement should disturb the surface. Some have interpreted these ripples as attempts by spirits to make their presence known, perhaps signaling, warning, or simply asserting that they are still near. Occasionally, these ripples appear in patterns, forming arcs or spirals that vanish as mysteriously as they arrive, leaving witnesses questioning the natural laws governing the lake. Sightings of ghostly figures are not limited to the water's edge. Some visitors report shadowy forms moving among the trees along the shoreline or standing silently near abandoned docks, their faces hidden in the twilight gloom. Others have described hearing faint footsteps on wooden planks or along the sand, the sound distinct yet unaccompanied by any visible person. These auditory phenomena often precede sightings of apparitions, creating a sense of anticipation or unease among those exploring the lake after dark. Whispered voices, sometimes clear enough to make out simple words, have been reported as well, though their source remains untraceable. Local history provides context for the lake's haunted character. Lake Cadillac has long been a hub of human activity, from logging and milling to recreational cabins and summer retreats. Over the decades, accidents, drownings, and disappearances have occurred along the shores. Many believe that these tragic events left imprints upon the landscape, lingering energies that manifest in subtle and sometimes startling ways. Ghostly figures in outdated clothing, reflections of cabins long gone, and ripples on otherwise still water may be echoes of past lives, replaying moments of work, leisure, or sudden tragedy. The lake's twilight hours are when these phenomena are most frequently reported. As the sun sinks behind the surrounding forest, shadows lengthen, and a soft mist often rises from the water. In these conditions, spectral figures appear sharper against the fading light, and reflected cabins seem almost tangible. Observers note a drop in temperature along the shoreline, as if the presence of the departed is palpable. Some have described the experience as both haunting and mesmerizing, a mixture of fear and wonder as history and the supernatural seem to intertwine. Boaters on Lake Cadillac have recounted eerie experiences on the water itself. Calm nights are punctuated by unexplained ripples or sudden fleeting lights on the horizon. Shadowy forms may appear in the distance, moving along the water as if rowing or walking on its surface. Attempting to approach these figures usually results in their sudden disappearance, leaving only the gentle lapping of water against the hull. The combination of visual and auditory phenomena creates a layered, immersive sense that the lake is alive with unseen presence, attentive to those who dare to venture near. Even during daylight, subtle traces of the supernatural persist. Walkers along the shore have noticed footprints in sand or mud that disappear without explanation, and reflections that seem slightly misaligned with the surroundings. Occasionally, Glimpses of cabin rooftops or docks appear where none exist, only to vanish upon closer inspection. These subtle signs suggest that the lake's haunted character is not limited to the cover of darkness, but is an enduring presence, a quiet reminder of its complex history and the lives that intersected with it. Elk Lake, located in the heart of Antrim County, Michigan, is celebrated for its clear waters, dense surrounding forests, and tranquil environment that draws anglers, boaters, and nature enthusiasts alike. But beneath its sparkling surface and serene beauty lies a more mysterious and haunting presence. Locals have long whispered about the lake's restless spirits, claiming that tragic events over the years have left lingering echoes that manifest in both subtle and startling ways. Visitors after dark often report chilling sensations, ghostly figures, and reflections on the water that seem to tell stories of a bygone era, transforming Elk Lake from a scenic retreat into a landscape shrouded in supernatural intrigue. Accounts of ghostly swimmers are among the most frequently reported phenomena. Witnesses describe shadowy figures gliding beneath the surface, sometimes just out of reach, their movements eerily smooth as if untouched by the physical laws that govern the living. These apparitions often appear near spots historically associated with drownings, sudden accidents, or boating mishaps. On calm nights, the water seems to ripple unnaturally around these figures, creating patterns and disturbances that vanish the moment someone tries to approach. Some have described seeing arms reach upward or figures lifting toward the surface, only to disappear entirely, leaving ripples as the sole evidence of their presence. Reflections on Elk Lake also contribute to its haunted reputation. Visitors have reported seeing scenes from the past mirrored on the water's surface, cabins that no longer exist, boats long gone, and figures in outdated clothing appearing as though frozen in time. These images can be strikingly vivid, sometimes showing entire households or groups of people engaged in everyday activities. The reflections seem responsive to observers, becoming clearer when someone pauses to watch and fading when approached. In many cases, the reflections reveal moments of tragedy: boats tipping over, figures falling into the water, or people calling out in panic, creating a chilling sense that the lake holds memories of those who met untimely ends along its shores. The auditory phenomena at Elk Lake heighten its eerie atmosphere. Walkers and boaters frequently report hearing faint splashes, whispers, and the distant laughter or cries of unseen swimmers. These sounds often seem to follow visitors, originating from areas where no one else is present. In some instances, the voices are distinct enough to mimic the tones of children or adults, calling names or repeating phrases like "help me" or "don't leave." The combination of visual and auditory cues creates a layered sense of unease, convincing many that the lake is not merely haunted by residual energy, but actively aware of those nearby. Sudden cold spots are another hallmark of Elk Lake's supernatural activity. Even on warm summer nights, observers report drops in temperature as they approach certain areas, especially near long-abandoned docks or shallow coves. These cold patches are often accompanied by other phenomena, such as water ripples forming without wind, fog rising unexpectedly from the surface, or glimpses of shadowy forms at the periphery of vision. Some believe that these temperature anomalies are the manifestations of spirits trying to interact with or warn visitors, reinforcing the sense that the lake is a living conduit between the present and the past. Boaters have shared particularly unnerving accounts. While navigating the lake at night, many describe encountering phantom rowboats or canoes drifting silently, seemingly unmanned, but following a deliberate course. Shadowy figures are sometimes seen standing in these vessels or waiting near the shore. When approached, the figures vanish without a trace, leaving only the soft lapping of water against the hull as a reminder of their presence. Some boaters have also reported seeing lights on the water that flicker like lanterns, hovering above areas historically tied to accidents or drownings, further lending credence to tales of ghostly guardians or restless spirits. The surrounding forest contributes to Elk Lake's haunting ambience. Shadows among the trees often appear exaggerated or move independently of natural light sources. Visitors have reported seeing figures standing silently near the water, only for them to vanish when a flashlight or torch is shown in their direction. Footsteps on the shore, the crunch of leaves, or faint whispers in the night add to the sensation of being watched. Many who explore the lake after dark describe an oppressive atmosphere, a mixture of awe and unease, as if the boundary between the living and the dead is unusually thin here. Historical context deepens the lake's eerie narrative. Elk Lake has been a site of human activity for centuries, from Native American settlements and early fishing communities to modern recreational use. Accidents, drownings, and other tragedies have occurred throughout its history, leaving behind memories embedded in both the landscape and, as local legend suggests, the water itself. Shadowy swimmers, sudden cold drafts, and spectral reflections may represent the imprints of these past events, replaying moments of joy, labor, or tragedy for those sensitive enough to witness them. Even during the day, subtle signs of the supernatural persist. Some visitors note small ripples forming on still water without wind, fleeting shapes in the shallows, or reflections that momentarily show scenes inconsistent with reality. These fleeting glimpses suggest that the lake's haunted presence is constant, not confined to the darkness of night, and that the spirits or energies tied to Elk Lake remain near the surface, visible to anyone willing to notice. Silver Lake in Oceana County, Michigan, is a place of quiet beauty by day, with calm waters reflecting the surrounding forests and sandy shores. But beneath its serene surface, locals and visitors alike report a far more unsettling presence. For decades, whispers of hauntings and mysterious occurrences have surrounded this lake, transforming it from a picturesque retreat into a site steeped in spectral intrigue. Those who venture near its waters after sunset often find themselves witnessing strange phenomena, phantom voices, inexplicable ripples, and reflections of people who should not be there. One of the most frequently reported experiences at Silver Lake involves the sound of voices carried on the wind. Walkers along the shore or paddlers on the lake at night often hear murmurs that seem to come from nowhere, as if the lake itself is speaking. These are not random sounds, but often appear coherent, mimicking conversations or calling out names. Some visitors have reported hearing the voices of children laughing, as though a long-past summer camp still lingers on the water. Others recount the eerie sensation of whispers pleading for help, soft murmurs that vanish when one turns to locate their source. These phantom voices create an atmosphere of both curiosity and unease, compelling some to investigate while urging others to retreat. Reflections in the water of Silver Lake are another source of haunting experiences. On calm nights, the surface acts like a mirror, yet what it reflects is not always reality. Observers describe seeing figures who are not physically present, entire groups of people engaged in activities that never took place, or at least, not in the present. Cabins that have long since been abandoned appear fully intact on the water's surface, and people in outdated clothing move through these scenes as though trapped in a moment, frozen in time. Sometimes these reflections display moments of tragedy: boats overturned, someone falling into the water, or a figure frozen in panic. The most unsettling aspect is the fleeting nature of these reflections. When approached, the figures disappear, leaving only the calm, empty lake. Mysterious ripples on the water add another layer to Silver Lake's otherworldly reputation. Even on windless nights, concentric circles form on the surface, moving as if something unseen is swimming beneath. Swimmers and boaters report feeling the water shift around them, yet find no current or underwater activity that can account for it. Occasionally, small waves seem to rise in tandem with the appearance of a spectral figure in the reflection, suggesting a direct connection between the visual and physical anomalies observed at the lake. These ripples, combined with the voices and reflections, create a disorienting environment where the line between reality and the supernatural becomes blurred. Some appear as shadowy silhouettes, standing motionless in the water, while others move along the banks with a silent, deliberate pace. When approached, these figures vanish entirely, leaving no trace other than the faint impression that someone or something was there. In some instances, observers have seen shapes that appear semi-transparent, their outlines flickering as if unstable between the material world and something beyond. These sightings, often accompanied by sudden chills, intensify the sense that Silver Lake is a place where the past continues to intersect with the present. The historical context of Silver Lake offers some insight into these haunting reports. The area has been a site of human activity for generations, from early settlers and lumber operations to recreational use in the 20th century. Accidents, drownings, and unexplained disappearances have occurred along its shores, leaving behind memories embedded in both the landscape and, as legend suggests, the water itself. Local folklore posits that the voices and reflections may be echoes of lives lost or unresolved events that continue to play out in the lake's depths. Whether these occurrences are residual energy or conscious spirits is a matter of speculation. But the consistency of reports over decades lends weight to the idea that Silver Lake harbors more than just natural beauty. Even during the daytime, subtle signs of the lake's haunting presence emerge. Visitors sometimes notice ripples forming in still water, without wind or sea reflections that do not match the current surroundings. Small, inexplicable changes in the shoreline, fleeting shadows among trees, or sudden drops in temperature are often reported, suggesting that the lake's spectral activity is not confined to the darkness of night. These daytime manifestations, though less dramatic, reinforce the impression that Silver Lake is a living repository of memories, both joyous and tragic. Boaters and anglers have shared particularly unnerving experiences. Some report hearing unseen companions aboard their vessels, the sound of footsteps pacing along the deck, or whispers echoing across the water. Others have claimed to see phantom rowboats drifting silently, following a deliberate path as if guided by unseen hands. On rare occasions, lantern-like lights appear hovering above the surface, glowing faintly, only to vanish when approached. These experiences contribute to the lake's reputation as a place where the ordinary rules of nature seem suspended, and where the past continues to assert itself in tangible ways. The cumulative effect of these phenomena is an environment that is simultaneously mesmerizing and unsettling. Silver Lake's calm waters, reflective surfaces, and quiet shores invite relaxation, yet they are constantly punctuated by reminders of the unexplained. Phantom voices, ghostly reflections, mysterious ripples, and sudden chills all suggest that the lake is more than a scenic location. It is a space where the living encounter echoes of those who are no longer present. Lake Charlevoix, in Charlevoix County, Michigan, is known for its stunning natural beauty, stretching across calm waters and framed by dense forests and rolling hills. But beneath the serene surface and scenic vistas, locals and visitors alike have long whispered about the lake's supernatural side. For generations, stories have circulated of ghostly figures, eerie reflections, and whispered voices that seem to rise from the water itself. Those who venture to Lake Charlevoix after dusk often experience events that defy explanation, as if the lake holds memories of the past trapped in its deep, reflective waters. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the appearance of ghostly reflections on the lake's surface. On calm nights, the water can mirror the sky and surrounding forests with pristine clarity, but observers often notice figures that do not exist on the shoreline. These reflections show people fishing from old rowboats, walking along beaches, or standing near cabins that have long since fallen into decay. Some reflections depict entire families engaged in activities from decades past, their images moving as if caught in a moment, frozen in time. When approached, these figures vanish without a trace, leaving only the lake's surface still and unbroken. Witnesses have described a profound sense of unease, as though they are intruding on something sacred and untouchable. Accompanying the ghostly reflections are whispered voices that drift across the water, often carrying on the night air with a clarity that belies their origin. Visitors report hearing conversations, laughter, or even soft warnings calling their names. Some claim the voices belong to children playing along shores that have been abandoned for decades, while others hear murmurs of adults, perhaps former residents of cabins now long gone. The whispers seem to emanate from nowhere, echoing across the lake, as if the water itself remembers the lives that once thrived along its banks. At times, these voices appear urgent or sorrowful, adding a chilling dimension to the otherwise tranquil environment. Boaters on Lake Charlevoix often report the most unsettling experiences. Many describe the sensation of being watched as they paddle through foggy waters, with ripples forming around their boats without wind or current. Some have seen phantom rowboats drifting silently nearby, as though guided by unseen hands, while others recount the sight of figures in old-fashioned clothing casting fishing lines into water that remains completely still. These apparitions sometimes move in patterns that mirror the observer's own path, creating the impression that the spirits are aware of their presence and are observing their movements. The lake shores also host eerie occurrences. Walkers along the sand or wooded edges frequently feel sudden chills, sense invisible presences, or hear footsteps that vanish when they turn to look. Shadowy figures are occasionally glimpsed along the shoreline, standing motionless before disappearing into the night. Some visitors report seeing lights flicker in abandoned cabins near the water, appearing briefly through broken windows before vanishing entirely. These visual phenomena are often paired with auditory experiences, such as soft knocking, creaking boards, or whispers carried across the breeze, reinforcing the impression that Lake Charlevoix is alive with lingering memories. Historical events may offer insight into the lake's spectral reputation. The area has been inhabited and used for recreation, fishing, and boating for over a century. And accidents, drownings, and tragedies have undoubtedly left their mark. It is said that the reflections and voices are echoes of those who died on or near the lake, unable to fully leave the world behind. Some theories suggest residual energy moments of life so intense they imprinted upon the environment accounts for the recurring phenomena. Others believe conscious spirits linger, drawn to the places and activities that defined their lives, appearing to the living as warnings or reminders of the past. Visitors report that these phenomena are not confined to night alone. Even during daylight, the lake occasionally reveals subtle signs of its haunting. Ripples may appear without wind, reflections may show scenes not present in reality, or small figures may dart across the water's surface before disappearing. Hikers along the shore sometimes catch glimpses of shadows among the trees, or feel sudden temperature drops as if the environment itself reacts to their presence. While less dramatic than nighttime manifestations, these daytime experiences reinforce the lake's reputation as a place where the boundary between past and present is thin and fragile. Many accounts describe a sense of being guided or warned by the lake's unseen inhabitants. Boaters report that spectral rowboats or figures seem to steer them away from dangerous areas, or that lights hovering over the water flicker and shift, as if drawing attention to hazards or pathways. Others feel compelled to leave certain areas after sensing an invisible presence, a reaction that visitors interpret as either cautionary or protective. These interactions, though fleeting and difficult to quantify, leave a lasting impression on those who encounter them. The cumulative effect of these occurrences creates an environment both mesmerizing and unsettling. Lake Charlevoix is a place of natural beauty, yet it is also a site where history and tragedy seem to linger in visible and audible forms. Ghostly figures, fishing, walking, or rowing across long-abandoned shores, whispers echoing on the night's air, and reflections that reveal scenes from the past, all contribute to a profound sense that the lake is alive with memory. Whether one views these events as spiritual, psychological, or coincidental, the experiences shared by countless witnesses over decades suggest that Lake Charlevoix is more than a simple body of water. It is a repository of stories, lives, and echoes that continue to reach out to those who dare to venture near. Houghton Lake, nestled in the scenic expanse of Charlevoix County, Michigan, is celebrated for its tranquil waters and picturesque surroundings. Yet beneath the beauty and calm, locals have long shared stories of a more mysterious nature. The lake has gained a reputation as a place where the past lingers, and those who visit after dusk or in the early morning mist often report experiences that defy conventional explanation. from ghostly reflections on the water to sudden fogs and whispered sounds. Houghton Lake is said to hold echoes of lives long gone, quietly observing the living. Many visitors describe seeing ghostly reflections of people in and around the water. On particularly calm evenings, when the lake mirrors the sky with near-perfect clarity, faint images appear that do not correspond to anyone present. Adults, sometimes dressed in clothing styles from decades past, are seen standing near boats or old piers, waving to the living or simply gazing toward the shore. These figures vanish when approached, leaving the surface of the lake undisturbed, as if nothing had been there. Witnesses often describe a mix of awe and unease, feeling as though they are catching a glimpse of a world that exists alongside their own. In addition to these visual phenomena, Houghton Lake is known for sudden and localized fogs that roll across its surface. These mists often appear with no warning, obscuring parts of the lake entirely and giving the impression that the water has become a portal to another time. Within the fog, observers report seeing phantom boats drifting silently, sometimes carrying figures who appear to row or cast fishing lines into invisible waters. Shadows move independently of any natural source of light, and faint ripples form as if something beneath the surface is stirring. Auditory experiences at Houghton Lake are equally unsettling. Whispers, laughter, and the sounds of children splashing or calling out have been reported by boaters and shoreline visitors alike. Often, these sounds seem to come from areas where no one is present, carried across the water by a breeze or arising from the mist itself. Some witnesses report hearing conversations in old dialects or phrases that echo historical speech patterns, suggesting that the spirits of long-deceased residents continue to occupy the spaces they once knew. The voices can be soft and fleeting, or startlingly clear, compelling listeners to pause in amazement or fear. Boaters on the lake frequently recount encounters that leave lasting impressions. Many describe the feeling of being followed, with ripples appearing around their vessels without wind or current. Phantom rowboats are sometimes spotted moving in tandem or crossing their path, only to vanish when approached. Some boaters have seen figures in old fishing attire, standing silently at the water's edge or in small boats, staring intently before disappearing into the fog. These experiences often carry a sense of purpose, as if the spirits are interacting with the living in subtle ways, perhaps as warnings, curiosities, or echoes of their former routines. Even during daylight hours, Houghton Lake can manifest unusual phenomena. Reflections may shift in ways that defy physics, showing scenes of cabins, piers, or families that no longer exist. These daytime experiences reinforce the idea that the lake is more than a natural feature. It is a repository of history, preserving the actions and memories of those who once lived beside it. Historical context may help explain the lake's reputation. Houghton Lake has been inhabited and enjoyed for recreation for over a century. Drownings, accidents, and tragedies are part of its long history, leaving an indelible mark on the environment. Some theorists suggest that the lake retains the residual energy of these events, a kind of memory embedded in the water and landscape. Others believe that conscious spirits remain drawn to the locations and activities that were central to their lives, appearing to those who venture near to remind them of the past or warn them of unseen dangers. The lake also seems to have a protective quality in some reports. Ghostly figures, particularly those appearing in boats or along the shore, often seem to guide visitors away from hazards, or their sudden appearances serve as warnings to retreat from areas of danger. Lights flickering on the water may signal rocks or shallow spots, while moving shadows or figures can steer observers towards safety. Many who encounter these phenomena interpret them as intentional acts by spirits, communicating with the living in subtle and eerie ways. For those who come to Houghton Lake seeking its beauty, the experiences reported by locals and visitors add an extra layer of fascination and apprehension. The interplay of water, reflections, fog, and sound creates an environment where the boundary between past and present is almost imperceptible, and whispered voices carried on the wind, all suggesting that the lake's history is far from forgotten. There you have it, 25 haunted lakes in Michigan, with mysterious reflections, from vast inland seas to secluded ponds. These lakes are more than scenic landmarks, they are mirrors into the past, revealing stories of tragedy, loss, and lingering spirits. Shadowy figures, ghostly reflections, and whispers carried across the water remind us that some histories are never fully submerged, and some souls never leave. If tonight's journey across Michigan's haunted lakes sent chills down your spine, make sure to subscribe, ring the bell, and join us for more explorations of haunted locations, unexplained phenomena, and the spirits that linger just beyond the surface. Keep your courage strong, your senses sharp, and your eyes on the water. Because in Michigan's haunted lakes, the reflections are never what they seem, and the spirits are always watching. Stay brave, stay curious, and good night.